Welcome to Birch Tree Studios, the home of 1013 Publications. This is 40 Below Zero, an international show about chronic illness hosted by two guys with MS. I'm your co-host Nick, and with me as always is Terry. We're so glad all of our warriors and supporters are here with us, so let's get into it.
Nice. I love it.
All right.
What's going on, buddy?
Terry,
That's so awesome.
here we are, the final episode of season 2. We made it.
Awesome.
I cannot believe it. It's been a heck of a year.
That's right, man. A whole year. Crazy.
Mhm.
2 seasons in 1 year.
And it
Great.
was this time at least a year ago that we started the idea of this. So it's been about 18 months since we came up with the idea of starting.
That's right.
So we figured we'd end with a bang for our listening audience, and we have two very special guests with us today. We have the very lovely Kit and the very lovely Katrina. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Hello.
Just joking. Yes.
Nice.
So Terry and I figured the one of the subjects we haven't gotten to yet is caregivers. So we figured we would bring on you two to pretty much take over the show and tell us what it's like to be a caregiver for me and Terry.
Mhm.
And remember, this is a family show, ladies.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
I got questions. But yeah,
Yeah.
like even saying caregiver, I hope they're not insulted by using that term.
I don't think so.
Not at all.
No, I'm not. No.
Cool. Or
Okay.
we should be sensitive about that.
Why?
Well, I don't know. We have caregivers instead of partners. I don't know. Doesn't that take a hit on your ego? I don't need a caregiver.
He's
Sure you
asking
do.
you, not me.
Sure you do. You mean you can do 100% of everything all the time, Terry? You don't need help at all? We didn't spend the last 12 months talking about
Mhm.
ego checking and putting
Yeah, yeah,
aside
yeah.
and opening
Yeah,
up
yeah.
and
I hear you.
now at the very last second you go, I am all that is man. No.
By the way,
I-
you put your ego to the side when you go wall climbing with no legs because someone is using they're positioning your legs for you. And as you're up there, you're like, am I ready to push a bit? So my body is sore as hell. Let's move on.
I bet. So,
I-
as our caregivers, what do we do wrong? No.
So let me start off with a funny story. And I don't even know if Kit knows the story. So when I went to get blood taken, which I call surgery, because a man cold, you know what I mean? So when I go get surgery done, the last time I went, as the blood was taken, she was sitting in the waiting room. Katrina was sitting in the waiting room, and she came around to make sure I'm okay, because she knows my arm. I'm sensitive. I'm like, I don't want to put my arm down yet. I don't. You know how you have to keep your arm up. So
Mhm.
she's cool. She's so aware, and she's always taking care of me, obviously. So she came around, and the lady looked at her and assumed that she's my caregiver, and she automatically put all her attention to Katrina, and she goes, "So, do me a favor. Make sure you catch his stream. Sorry."
She was saying that he needed to submit a urine sample and then
Mm,
explaining to me what I needed to do, that I needed
Okay.
to wipe first, then I
Mhm.
needed to catch it midstream. And I'm
Mhm.
just kind of like, what? Wait, what? No, I'm just here to say you're ready to go.
So her face is like, she's looking at me thinking I'm going to react, because usually I'm like, lady, I'm right here. Why are you talking to her? Right.
Mhm.
So she's looking at me like, what's going on? Because the lady's like, make sure you catch it midstream, wipe, and you know, and she's looking at her, and Katrina's looking at me like, you going to react? And I'm like, no, this is all you. So yeah, it was fun. So stuff like that happens all the time. And
That's
you know,
great.
mhm.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. Now, were you guys already were you guys together before you got diagnosed, or did you guys get together after you were diagnosed?
Yeah, after.
Afterwards. Yeah. And then I met Terry when he had already transitioned into the chair. He'd transitioned, I think, a few months prior. So I got the pleasure of helping him navigate through the home. So there was a lot of anger, frustration,
Mhm.
because there's not a book out there that's like, you got, dummies for whatever. There wasn't one on how to navigate life in your home in a wheelchair. So
Mhm.
yeah. So I met him like that. But again, I don't see the chair. I
Right.
mean, it's there, but I see the person.
When I met
Right.
her, she just went through surgery, so she was in a wheelchair. So I thought she was in a wheelchair until a week later I saw her using a walker. I'm like, hey, wait a minute.
Were you like, liar?
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Well, I would have to say
As
that
the
that
kids would say, she like gaslighted you.
Yo,
It-
she catfished me. Sorry.
Yeah, but he
That's
was judging me.
fantastic.
He was judging me for my chair because I had a hospital, very old fashioned.
Oh,
And he was
yeah.
like, "Oh, look at her wheels."
Yeah,
like-
right.
Old
Yeah.
school.
Feeling
about
bad
you?
for you because you had some, some old
Old
used
crickety.
wheelchair one, hospital one.
probably
Yeah.
the most interesting pickup line I've ever heard. I've never heard of anyone getting into a wheelchair on purpose to pick up a guy in a wheelchair.
That's right.
That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you guys? I know he was diagnosed. What is it? 10 years, bro? I'm sorry.
10
I
years,
keep- I'm-
2013.
Okay. Yeah, it was 10 years.
Yep. We got together in 2000. So
way
there
back,
was a
okay.
long period of time before the MS took over. Now there was a lot of symptoms, a lot of things I would complain about.
Yeah.
And I think I talked about it, talk about the rib cage hurting. I thought it was, my vest from work or, all that stuff. I thought my fatigue was just, being a working dad with 2 young kids. I just thought that was what dads do. I thought they just came home after work and went to sleep on the couch.
Not just a working dad. You had 3 jobs.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So I thought it was all that. Turns out it was only some of that was true.
I love her, man. She's totally crediting you. She's like, it's not only that, you had 3 jobs, man.
He
So-
did.
No,
He
I know.
did. No,
So-
listen,
Yeah.
he is, when I first met him, he was cocky and he was just this.
Be careful.
How old
my
were you?
mom's listening.
19? He was 19. He was so
okay.
young. Yeah.
Oh, that's
I
right.
was 22.
Okay. Okay.
And
What is
we
it called?
both, we don't have to say what I am. That's enough of that.
It's okay. I got a bigger age gap. So we both have the young ones, but my mom always told me, and my dad still jokes about it today, saying my mom would always say, always date men younger than you, because when you get sick, they'll take care of you.
Yeah.
The joke's on you.
I was gonna
Beat
say,
to
I
it.
think it's the other way around though.
Yeah,
for
yeah,
us.
yeah.
Which is okay. But he's a fantastic dad. Just stop it.
Yeah.
He's everything. He is everything that anybody would be lucky to have as a husband
Wow.
and as a dad.
Thank you.
He's also a royal pain in my ass daily,
I'll own that.
but that's okay, and I absolutely hate this disease a lot.
The biggest thing with me is I feel bad because we have MS and we seem to get the spotlight, but you probably have shit that you're going through behind closed doors. Maybe you have arthritis that nobody knows about and it's just ignored and we're put ahead. I mean, I'm sure he recognizes what you're going through and I do too. I'm like, I'm so sorry.
Mhm.
Focus on yourself, but the world will still take care of me before her in public.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And it also doesn't, and it, also, I hate to say it, but another thing that has to do with that is that we are both women, and I'm not going on a whole women's lib thing, but yeah, it is harder for us to get the doctors to listen to us when we're trying to explain what our problems are. I've been sick for probably 12 years now and trying to get a doctor to do specific blood tests and, specific testing it's pointless anymore. So honestly, I don't bother. I know how I'm going to feel when I wake up in the morning. I know how I'm going to feel throughout the day. And, and then I honestly do 8 million things to keep my mind off of it. So one of them is helping him.
Right. Question for you, Kik. There was one thing I attended a caregiver support group many, many, many months ago.
Mm.
And they were saying, it was interesting because they were saying, like, when you're in a relationship, there's 3 people in the relationship. There's you, your partner, and MS.
Mm.
And the one woman had said, which I agree wholeheartedly, but one of the participants there had said that she met her husband, or sorry, they were married, and then he was diagnosed several years afterwards.
Mhm.
And she said, if I'd known this was going to happen, I would have never married him. And that hurt me because
Wow, I
I
just got
met
the
Terry.
chills.
It just, it crushed me. I was like,
That.
wow. So I'm curious.
I don't even like that statement.
Thank you,
Like,
because it really upset me.
That was said like not in front of the guy though. Not in front
No,
of
no,
the
no. It was,
professor.
yeah, it was other
So
caregivers.
that was
and
real talk. You guys never think that? I never even asked you that. Like, well, you met me, you knew I had MS, but you didn't know I had this many problems.
No.
Even with my emotions, I'm a wreck sometimes.
Because they were explaining, like the woman was explaining, when you're going to go somewhere, you're going out, you want to, you would go to the restaurant beforehand. You want to make sure, is it fully accessible? Is the washroom? And so you're always doing that extra homework to make sure everything is going to be fine and you're not going to have any challenges when you get there, blah, blah, blah. But I'm kind of like, you just go with the flow and make it work.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that
See,
I would walk away from somebody.
I can appreciate like her making those statements. I absolutely can appreciate that.
Mhm.
And, does it make me angry that he has this disease? Yeah, of course. Is it unfair for all of us that are involved? Yes.
Yeah.
Because, it's a life change. It's as soon as you hear those words and as soon as you get that diagnosis, it's not terminal, but it's chronic, and it's something that you have to adjust to for the rest of your life.
Mhm.
And with that woman who had said about going to restaurants and stuff, I get very frustrated when we go out. And if we go to a restaurant, this is actually one of my little notes that I have to make sure to bring up. If we go to a restaurant and we see tables that are not equipped to handle him navigating with a wheelchair, I verbally get angry at the people there. And if I see people just sitting there eating, and here comes my husband who's trying to wheel his way through this tiny little area and they don't move their asses in, I will move them for you if you need me to. And it makes me very angry because it's like, I don't want you to necessarily see that my husband is disabled, but I'd like you to recognize the fact and respect the fact that he is in something that needs to help him move around.
Yeah.
You have your 2 legs. These are his legs. Move. And my Evelyn is exactly the same way. Our oldest, she is exactly the same way. And we were at a Phillies game. They were at a Phillies game, and she almost, started swinging at some old man who was messing around with under Nick's chair as they were wheeling around.
No.
And she was, listen, she's spicy and feisty. Okay. She is probably 10 levels higher than I am, and that's saying something. But she was ready. She was
Dude,
ready to swing with this
I need
guy.
to ask her some questions, dude. That's crazy. Yo, when she's doing this at a restaurant, what do you do, Nick?
He tells me to stop.
I just remind her that there are worse things that could,
Oh,
I don't get mad out and about, because here's why I don't get mad.
Yeah.
Because I look for the moment that the person realizes that they screwed up, and you just see the wash over their face. So I don't say anything. And when I'm like, so I'll come up and be like, excuse me, do you mind if I, just excuse me. And then just being polite. But then when they realize why I'm being so polite and why the voice is coming from a lot lower than they're used to, they go, oh, I'm sorry. And then they just bolt out of the way. So I don't get angry because I know that they'll realize it eventually.
Well, he also has his wife who will just get angry.
Yeah, and I
for
don't
him.
have to.
So he doesn't have to get angry.
I get angry, man. And that's me. And she's like, her ambiance is peace. And I get it. And I love it. I need that. But sometimes I'm the one saying something and I'm looking at her after. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Did I ruin your night? I am so sorry. And she's like, no, you're fine. You're fine. But I think if Kit and I were in the same place, I think it'd be war.
I think that'd be bad.
Nick,
think-
remember? I'm so sorry. Remember
It's
one of your
okay.
videos where you're doing training and people are getting sprayed in the face? And
Oh yeah.
the only words I can remember, and it's funny, it's when you watch someone realize they just messed up, you're like, oh, there it is.
There it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yep.
There's the shame. You're shaming yourself. Anyway,
That's it. And that's why I don't have to say anything, because they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
It just takes
yeah.
a second. But
Uh,
I do appreciate the fact that so many of my family members are like ready to go to jail.
I appreciate that too. And please speak up for me too.
You, no
'Cause
problem
as a
there.
female, I'm sorry. I'm not okay. This might be sounding wrong, but as a female, it might be a little easier for you than a guy. Because when it's the guy, they're like, "Oh my God, relax. You're so abusive." That's what I feel. I feel as a guy, I'm not allowed to raise my voice, and then other than
I don't know. I think now with the way our climate and the social media, I think if a woman starts voicing up, they get called a Karen or they're labeled,
Yes.
that they're,
Absolutely.
oh,
Yeah.
what's wrong with her? What's, and,
Yes.
so
Yes.
I think there's a lot more negative
Yeah.
if a woman raises her voice.
No, I agree with that. Absolutely. I totally agree with that.
I have a lot of irritability. Just by the way,
Really?
yeah, really.
Yeah, but a lot of it's warranted too.
The bruise that she has is not from. No, I'm just joking. I'm not joking about that shit. She doesn't like when I joke
No.
about that, dude. Like, okay, what was I gonna say? I see a counselor, right? I just started seeing a counselor again. I was seeing one before. I stopped for a while, and then my irritability has come out again.
A
And
counselor or a therapist?
That's
a
what they call
counselor.
it.
No,
That's
no, no,
Canadian speak for
no,
therapist.
no. It's not Canadian speaking.
It's a social worker,
It's not a counselor.
which is counseling.
I
Okay.
I have seen therapists, yes, and they're pricey. Our counselors here are free.
Okay. What do they help
Social
with?
worker. So they have like a program. They don't like see you forever. They say, I'm going to see you for 6 sessions,
Okay.
sometimes 6 weeks, whatever.
Okay.
And and they're just trying to get you on the right path.
Okay.
So they're not trying to, like a therapist will continuously talk to you as long as you come and pay, I guess.
Yeah.
Or yeah. And this is so he gets you on the right track, gives you the right
Tools.
tools. Will send me a lot of different tools.
Would you what caused you to go back to seeing one? What was it that was that like, yep, I got to go see a counselor again?
I'm aware that people irritate me, and
Okay.
I don't show it to them. I in behind the scenes, but it's affecting me, my mood. It's heavy, and I'm not that guy. I'm a guy
Yeah.
who loves everyone, who loves to make people laugh. So, and sometimes I try to hurt people, not physically, but like when someone texts me and it's bothering me, I don't know. I just see red,
Okay.
and I try to comfort myself. Like, I'm not going to answer you back, and instead of just acting on it and not answering back, I have
Yeah.
all these thoughts that come in my head, and I don't like that at all. And so the first step is to see a counselor.
Okay.
And
At
I
least
think
you
it's a
can
lot
recognize that.
thanks.
A lot
Thanks.
of people cannot, I mean, even people that aren't dealing with a chronic illness or any type of diagnosis, a lot of people can't recognize the fact that they need to see someone, whether it's a counselor or a therapist or, who, it doesn't matter, a group, and that's a shame, but it's good that you
Yeah.
can recognize that.
Thanks. Thanks.
Good for
Yeah. I you know what? Even Katrina doesn't, well, she does. Everyone has issues, obviously, but she sees a counselor just cause,
Yeah.
and I think that kind of motivated me too. And
Yeah.
think
Well,
it's-
I mean,
yeah.
it's good that Katrina sees one as well, because, she may not, have the 24/7 life of living that with you, but like you said, she has her own things going on, plus on top of helping you, and sometimes we just need someone to talk to.
Yeah. Sometimes you just
So-
need to unload and just do that mental health check-in. Yeah.
Yeah.
And having that non-biased or impartial person
Yep.
listen to you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's, it'd be one thing you and I sitting here talking and, maybe not necessarily like a huge bitch fest about, the two of them, but we'd be venting a lot to each other, and really, where would we get? We would just have, an hour-long vent session, which
Right.
would be great sometimes. But then when it's all done, it's kind of like, well, do I feel any better?
Mhm.
Not really. I just got to talk to a girlfriend about what's going on and how I feel,
Right.
So what's that? Oh,
There's traveling coming up like in a few months because we are thinking of going to New York. And
very exciting.
That's gonna be epic. So to tease season 3 for our listeners, I'll say that I'm gonna vote that season 3 starts with the adventures of Nick and Terry taking on New York.
yeah.
When we meet with Dr. Wagner.
Mhm.
Wagner.
I love his name.
I say it the way I
It's
say it.
I used to say it. I
fanciest
messed you up
name.
because
You
I used to
did.
say, "Hey, remember it's Vanier."
Yeah.
Remember that? I was like, "It's Vanier," and now
Yeah.
it's Wagner. Anyway, who cares? He's good.
Katrina, how
Yeah.
do you deal with his mood swings? Like with the ups and the downs of like his, I'm in a really good mood, and then 45 minutes later,
Mhm.
I'm just pissed off at the world. Like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, for me, I'm a very patient and calm person. So I let him vent and get it out. And then I try to make him look at things at a different perspective. It's almost like that cognitive therapy, right? Like look at the positives. But if anything, I'm like, get it out of your system and let's move on. I don't think if I was to be yelling back or anything, I don't think that would help the situation. It's just trying to stay calm. And I find when he gets it out of his system, it's good. That's what he needed. He needed to just get it out.
Yeah.
And
Sometimes, so she's quiet when I'm freaking out. And, I've had other relationships in my past. And usually when I freak out, the other person starts to freak out. Like, what's wrong? But she's quiet. And sometimes I look at her, I'm like trying to get a reaction out of her because I'm like, for sure you're annoyed of what I'm doing, but she's just like looking at me, and I'm like, say something. And she's like,
just go, get it out, do what you got to, say what you got to say, and let me try and sometimes too, it's just trying to understand his perspective or to see what's upsetting him, and then I can either put it in perspective and say, yeah, okay, I kind of see your point, or like, hey, instead of saying, okay, stop being an idiot, I'll position it as, have you thought about this? Or are you angry because of the situation and the person, or are you angry at yourself? And this is your way of, so there's a lot of things that I'll throw questions back at him so that he's got to reflect, and then he just calms right down.
Dr. Callahan.
No, I like that. I don't do that.
No?
No.
How do you react with the moods and
Well,
the frustrations? Yeah.
Number one, I have a very short fuse.
Okay.
I don't deny it. I am very Irish, so when they say that the Irish are very, very stubborn, and we're not kidding, we are. I'm also a Libra.
Oh boy, we're all Libras
and
here. Everybody,
and
for the cool kid.
Libras need to feel that love.
Except for
And if they feel like the negative is coming at them, they don't understand why. Like, why are you being so mean? And many times I will ask him if he's took his medication, because
because there's a noticeable difference when I
Yes.
skip a dose.
because when he does not take his medication,
Noticeable difference.
he is just, like almost impossible to live with. And I'm like, you know what? I need you or me to get out of each other's faces right now, because this is going to be bad. And he will sit because he knows, all right, I messed up. Like, now he knows Kit's done. What did I do? He immediately goes to the cabinet and he pulls out his medicine thing and he sees that he missed his medication. And all I hear is, well, that explains it. And I'm like, oh, that's why you were the asshole right now. And he's like, yep, I forgot my medication. I'm like, all right, well, you can't take it now. But then I know at that point, that's why he's being the way that he is, because, he doesn't have that pill on board.
Balance.
Right.
And I tell him all the time, I'm like, can you take your other medication like all day, every day, please? Because you're very happy when you take that medication.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, no, because then I can't function. I'm like, that's all right. Let me handle everything. I can do that.
Yeah. I think, and there are times too where Terry's personality, he's a social guy and he needs that intellectual stimulation with people.
Intellectual.
Well, yeah. And I find when he's spent an entire day all by himself, like, doing his thing, and maybe he's had, some texts or whatever, but he's grumpy. He's in a horrible spot. And I'd be like, so have you talked to anybody today? Nope. So if I just sit and chat with him for 15, 20 minutes, I can see that transition immediately. And it's like all you need. Like, and so, which was one of the many reasons which prompted get involved in a support group, start connecting with other people, because it's, we need that connection with people.
It's the same thing with you with medication, except she goes, did you eat something? Usually grumpy when you don't eat or you're hungry. And that's really hard to say to someone, to be like, did you take your medication?
I hate when he asks me if I have eaten today. Oh, because I can't just be mad about something. Like that is just, the thought of that is just not possible for me to just be upset about something. So when I am upset or I say something to him, like, are you okay? How are you doing? What's going on? You look like you're in pain. I'm checking in with him. Because I asked those questions, I will get, have you eaten today? Are you kidding? And I look at him, I'm like, what the hell does me eating have to do with me asking you if you're okay? He's like, well, I just want to make sure. I'm like, okay, you know what? That's fine. Yeah.
It's your medication.
Is it my medication?
I would never think that, Nick, you seem like a really calm, collected guy. I'm the guy that's crazy. Behind the scenes, the way I am, it's times 10. But I love to socialize. And I showed you this before, but I just want Kit to see this. That she gave me a gift once, a coaster that says something on it. And it says, sorry I slapped you, but it didn't seem like you'd ever stop talking, and I panicked. And when she gave me this, she's like, it's just a joke. It's just a joke. It's just a joke. I'm like, it's funny. It's funny.
That's hilarious.
I mean, it's very, like, it takes a lot to get me mad, which is funny because my background is Irish and I'm Libra as well, Kit. So a lot of similarities. But yeah, it takes a lot to make me angry. But when I get there, it's not pretty. Dude, and I can just give him a look and he knows.
I was just about to say.
I don't have to say anything. And he's like, okay. Or there have been times where I have, like, it's my turn. Stop. So this is there are times when I will be, whatever it is, I'm not in the mood. I'm not in the mood for his jokes. I'm not in the mood for talk. And I'll just look at him and say, you need to stop now. You need to just stop talking and just give me 5 minutes.
Does Otherwise, he think he's the funniest person in the world?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So does Nick.
Oh, yeah. And and apparently I have no sense of humor.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Like I'll be cracking jokes. I'll be showing him reels and I'm like, this is hilarious. He's like, yeah, we got different humor. I'm like, really, buddy?
And he looks at me and he's like, how do you, like, he will crack a joke and I don't think it's funny.
Right.
Sometimes it'll be at my expense. And I know he doesn't mean it in a mean way, but I'm just kind of like, I don't think that was funny. And then I give him that look that you're talking about. And he's like, how do you not know that I'm joking? How did you not think that was funny? I'm like, I'm sorry. I didn't know that you became a comedian from the time we got married. And then he just looks at me and he's like, all right, that really wasn't funny for you, was it? No, it really wasn't.
This is some kind of like weird Black Mirror couples therapy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, I'm in the car one day. Dude, I think I'm funny. I'm venting about some cows or in the field or something. And I'm venting and she looks at me, what happened? And I'm like, you thought I was really upset. I'm like, no, I'm joking. This is part of my skit. And you're like, oh, she was so scared to talk. And there's some times when I'm venting, but not at her, but I'm just venting. I'm pissed off. And I'll say a few things and she'll look at me and give me this look. And then I'll apologize right away. I'm sorry, it's not towards you. I'm just venting. It has nothing to do with you.
Because I'm kind of giving that look of like,
You better not be talking
what did
to
you
me.
just say?
Excuse me? Yeah.
Do you want to repeat that or no?
Yeah. She yeah. And I don't want to lose her too. So as soon as she does that, I get scared. Like, okay, I'm sorry.
Well, there are a lot of times where the brain connections go faster than our conscious. Like there's a lot of things that go on that we don't want to say, and a lot of times we can't. There's no gate anymore. It just all kind of floods out.
He has no filter. He didn't have a filter really when we first got together either. And I guess probably over the last 5 years, it is completely dissolved. Like it has just disappeared 100%. And I say to him, you really don't have a filter. And he's like, I'm sorry, because he doesn't. And I know that that is, part of this disease because, it is neurological no matter what.
Yep.
If I don't say all the things that are in my brain, I will explode.
He will. He absolutely will explode. I believe in my heart of hearts he would.
Yep. Yeah.
Dude, I think I'm the same way. I need to say it and I apologize. I'm like, listen, I just need to say it. I know I shouldn't be saying this, but I just need to say it to get it off my chest. And I always go, my OCD, but dude, do I really have OCD? So this is an MS thing, you think? This is our...
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, I think it goes to the core of, at least personally, you get very scared of the time you don't know you have left to function the way you're functioning now. So you're like, okay, like Terry and I have talked about this a few times. We're like, we don't really get scared about the MS until there's another symptom or something that has changed that didn't reset itself. So always worrying that the next half of the day is going to bring a change that will never be undone. It's like, if I don't say it now, if I don't do it now, it might not ever get done. And I will feel like a complete failure because I didn't, I don't know, take your pick of something that doesn't matter to anybody, but it matters a lot to us in the moment.
And I too, like speaking for Terry, that he'll want to say it right then and there because 5 minutes later it's gone. And he'll say it's the fog, right? And so he'll be like, I'll be having a conversation. All of a sudden, he just interjects and blah, 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 blah. But I also know he's not trying to be rude. He's just, I got to get it off my brain because there are so many times he's like, I was going to tell you this. Or at the end of the day, he's like, I wrote down these things to remember to tell you.
Yeah. Nick will do the same thing.
So, Terry, you know what I started doing, especially because like, as you come to the end of the day, I'm like, if I don't, I got all this stuff's got to get, or it's not. I start to say, well, if I remember it tomorrow, is it important enough to say? So I'm not going to say everything, but if I wake up and I still remember, then I'll say it.
Same thing, man. We'll have a conversation and just say, hey, how was your phone call with Nick? And I'm like, yeah, it was okay. And then an hour later, 2 hours, like, oh my God, did you know that Nick did this? And she's like, why wouldn't you tell me that before? I'm like, dude, I don't know. I don't know.
Because he forgot.
Yeah.
Short-term memory.
So along those lines, I wrote 15 prompts. So I knew where I was going with
more prepared than I've ever been for this show. Ever.
Wow.
Listen,
she's on one episode, comes with a page.
Saw my phone.
Nice.
I have
Dude,
most of my memory is taken up with notes in my phone. Literally my notes app that I have. Oh, there's thousands. I don't even know.
So
and I don't write them on paper anymore because I would just leave the papers everywhere.
Oh.
And I forget where I would leave them, but my phone never leaves my side. So I just put it in my phone.
Okay.
So when he gets a new diagnosis or like, a new lesion or a new symptom or something like that, how do you help him get through that?
We haven't had a new diagnosis or anything new from the neurologist. We actually have our next MRI next week, which will determine, because for whatever reason, all of Terry's previous MRIs, because he was in Toronto and since moved to London, everything's gone. So we don't
Oh.
have a baseline. So we got the MRI done earlier this year, and then we're going to have our second one done
Okay.
next week, which will determine. But I can see some deterioration, or I see certain symptoms.
Mhm.
So I think for me, because I don't, I mean, let's be honest, there is moments where you do get scared
Mhm.
because we don't know what to expect, but I'm
Oh,
more
yeah.
scared for Terry.
Absolutely.
But if anything, it's just more, I talk it out, or I'll point out, hey, I just happened to notice, like, and of course I'm drawing a blank now myself.
Yeah. No.
But it's
I get
more
it.
of talking it out and just acknowledging that, hey, I've noticed this. Are you
Yeah.
aware? Are you seeing it? Or Terry will then, and I feel like it's a confession, because Terry will sometimes, like, a week later, oh, I fell.
Dude,
And so, it's like, why didn't you tell me at the time? Why didn't
Right.
you? Because we've got a special belt that will help so I can lift him up off the floor. So,
Okay.
but
this hurts my ego when we talk about the belts. We haven't used it. I think we tried to use it once.
Yeah, we've used it once.
Yeah, which was it a success? Anyway, they use these belts at senior homes, right, to help them up and stuff
Mhm.
like
Yeah,
that.
we're
And
familiar.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, it's just a
It's
weird
just a
thing.
safe way for everybody. Yeah.
So when I was talking to my counselor, I hate saying that. When I was talking to my counselor, but when I fall down when I'm alone, first of all, my fall downs aren't like fast, right? They're slow because my knee buckles, so I'm slowly bringing myself to the floor.
Mhm.
But when I'm on the floor, and if I'm alone, I don't react. I just breathe. I get up. I continue, and then maybe I'll tell Katrina. Maybe, like, she says that I say that, but sometimes I don't, because I'm like, oh, it's okay. But when she's around, I'm drama. Why? Because I used to think it's just because I'm pissed off or whatever, but I've realized it's because I want her to know this is weird. Okay. I want her to know I'm not okay with this. I'm not okay with this. This is not normal. I don't want you to think this is normal. Almost like I feel guilty that she's in this relationship and that she's going to be dealing with this a lot more. So I'm like, no, this is not right. This is not right. This is a fuck up. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
This is just me and my
Yeah, but
counselor trying to
I
understand.
mean, I get it. No, I get it. But in her defense, she chose it.
Yes.
She chooses it every
Yep.
day to continue to either not watch you fall or
Yep.
watch you fall.
Thank you.
And
Thank you. Yeah.
she wants to be there to pick you up, whether it's with the belt that you don't want,
Mhm.
or to have you pick yourself up on your own. I mean, I know that, you and Nick are both skinny guys. I'm sure, Katrina and I are not wimps at all. But if he fell, there's no way I'm picking his ass up. So if I had a belt at home, I'd be using that thing
Mhm.
to pick his ass up, whether
Yep.
he liked it or not. But I can get it. It's a pride thing. I understand. It's an ego thing, I'm sure. But, just remind yourself, she wants to be here. She wants to be with you. She chooses that every day.
Thank you, Kit, because I don't know how many times I've said that when Terry's like, I don't want anybody around. I'm like, I'm choosing to be here. So
Yeah. And if anybody you want to
yeah.
have around, it should be her.
Yeah, I've
Every
tried.
day,
And if there's
10 times out of 10.
and if there's anybody you want touching you,
It's
probably
her.
Well,
Have you thought
Exactly.
have you thought about in those times when you're on the ground, not to get personal, but when you're on the ground and she's trying to help you up, you just pull her down and start kissing her? Why the hell not? Like, take advantage
Oh.
of that moment.
Yeah.
That's a vulnerable moment for both of
That's a good
you.
idea.
Because
Great.
that's exactly what he would do to me. He'd be like,
Yeah.
get down here,
Yeah.
So
wait on the floor for you.
absolutely. And that's exactly what he say. Be
Love
like,
it.
baby, I'm waiting for you. So you get down here. I'd be like, all right, you shithead, let's
But
go.
in all honesty, the last time I fell, I had like 30 seconds of ego, and then it was like, yeah, go ahead and call the ambulance.
Yeah.
So I was like,
But I'm also
it's a while ago. Bro.
Oh, okay.
I am 1000% the matriarch of my family. I am the typical mom in the
Mhm.
house. Everybody says, if mom says jump, everybody goes how high. Now I don't
Yep.
tell them to, but they know that
They know.
shit needs to get done. Let's go. Get off your asses. We got stuff to do. So when I see that he falls, or if I hear him fall, I will stand there for a minute, and then I'm like, all right. And then I go in and I look at him. I'm like, you bleeding? And if he's not bleeding anywhere, nothing's broken, I let him contain himself and get himself up. But if it's a little bit more serious than that, then I tell him, all right, well, I'm calling the ambulance.
Right.
And I know he gets upset at first, but he's not going to argue with me because I see something that he doesn't see.
Right.
So they come and pick you up?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do they charge you?
Mm.
No, I don't know.
Do we get charged if we call the ambulance here?
We do.
We do.
Mhm.
Um,
But it's a minimal fee.
so just
Because they're not transporting you. That's a
No.
lift.
so they just
assist,
pick you up and they leave?
They
No.
check you out.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
If they take him, then, we haven't gotten charged yet, but that's because his insurance is fantastic.
Oh, it's insurance probably.
But honestly,
Plus, I know.
I'm
most of
sure
them.
if I called them for a lift assist, they would be out in a heartbeat for a lift
Dude,
assist.
I would go nuts if she's like, I'm calling the ambulance. That's me being honest. I'd be like, no, I'm gonna get up
But-
on my own. Don't do this to me.
But if you gotta remember, most of these people know who I am.
Yeah, it's the life
Like,
that
I've
we
lived
lived
with
for
them.
so long. That's why.
So
Now, if we
it's-
moved
you're calling your
somewhere,
friends.
if we
You're
moved
right, you're
somewhere and
right.
we didn't know them, then he would probably think, I would think twice about it. I would probably even say, okay, let's figure out how to get your ass up.
Yeah, but the guy, the responders that come out, they're at least in my area, they're great. They're all great, and I would not call them. And I also have the knowledge of being one of them. Back in the days
Yeah.
of yore,
Right.
Yeah.
and I know how many people, and I've seen firsthand how many people suffer more by not calling them, and I've
Yeah.
heard
Absolutely.
of people passing away because of how many
Oh my
people
God.
because of their pride don't
Yeah.
call the ambulance.
Mhm.
And they say, "Oh, I'll be fine. I'll be fine.
No.
Oh, it's just a little chest pain." 24 hours later, they're no longer with us.
But I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, like, I wonder how many people have done the same thing where, they were watching TV or they were on the internet and, they were like, oh, well, I have this. I don't need to go to a doctor for it. And then like Nick said, they regret not going to the doctor for it and they're not here anymore.
Right. Right.
So
Yes.
it's kind of like, don't assume that you have something and that it's going to be okay. And
Mhm.
don't assume that you don't have something and it's going to be okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, you don't want to self-diagnose until you actually
No,
have a professional.
definitely.
Because I
Right.
always joke with Terry, I'm like, yeah, my degree it's in the mail. It got lost. Yeah, but
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
you don't. But I mean, when you talk about like the how do we handle like with the different progression or news
Yeah.
and stuff, I know when we've gone to the neurologist a few different times, I have a list of questions written out and different things to ask. And then when he starts recommending or suggesting other medications, I'm the one jumping in and go, okay, what are the side effects? Like because the first time he's like, so Terry, how's it going? He said, yeah, pretty good. I'm like, no, it's not. No, it's not. Let's back it up. Let's talk about and I guess
Yeah.
for myself, like to kind of give you an honest answer is that I'm doing a lot of my own research and I'm trying to figure out, okay, what are we in for? And that we can
Right.
handle it appropriately.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like how
Yeah.
have you handled over the years and seeing Nick's progression?
Well, I mean, at the beginning, it was so progressive. It was literally every 3 months he was in the hospital, and for like 5 to 7 days at a shot. And it was,
Okay.
I mean, it was so hard, like just keeping track of everything that he would tell me. I couldn't be there a lot of times when the doctors were there, so I couldn't hear them personally, like firsthand what they were saying. Because we had the girls and they were a lot younger back then. So, to like he would explain, at the beginning, which I didn't really understand the disease in the first place. So I had to research it on my own. Worst thing I could have possibly done. The doctor even said, Kit, do not go home and start looking on the internet. Okay. And what did I do? I did exactly what everybody else does. And I went home and I looked on the internet. And I was like, oh my God, my husband's going to die. Like this disease is going to kill him. And then I'm like really reading it and I'm like, wait, okay, no, he's going to be okay. So the only time there were 2 times where I was really scared with lesions and symptoms. And the one which is still there, he has a lesion around his brainstem. And when the doctor kind of put the reality of what that means out there, it sucked because, you know, it could, and I stress that word could, it could prohibit him from speaking. It could prohibit him from breathing properly, you know, just from moving at all. And I was like, it could have gone anywhere, but it ended up there. Like, why there? Of all the crazy places for it to be, it had to be there. So he will say to me, babe, I have no idea if I'm going to wake up tomorrow and be able to talk or if I'm going to be able to see you. Mainly because of this specific lesion and the location that it's at. And that's not an off the cuff comment that he makes. That's a legit fear that he has. And I try so hard to, you know, kind of calm that fear, but I can't. And I know that I can't because I'm not the one living with it physically.
Right.
You know, I'm just the one living with it next to him. And so that was the first one that scared me. So every other, you know, new lesion that came through since, I'm like, okay, well, that's nothing compared to this one. The other one that scared me was he had to get a phoresis done. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
No, I'm not.
Phoresis?
So Nick can actually explain it a lot better. But it was definitely top 3 of the scariest things that I've experienced so far with him having this disease.
So a phoresis is basically an oil change. They need to rotate out my platelets, clean them, and put them back in because there was too many of a protein. There was too much of a protein. It was when I was switching from Tysabri to Ocrevus. My JC numbers, which you're familiar with those, Terry?
Yes.
So my JC numbers went up a little bit. So it was very concerning. So the doctor said, okay, well, in order to get, you have too much of this protein for the JC virus. So we need to do an oil change basically. So they rotate your platelets out, take away the protein and put new ones back in.
But the thing is that it's not just that. It's the machine that they put on him to make it happen. Machine. Okay. So unfortunately, he had eaten that morning. And so how they usually do it, they usually put it like on your side or something, you know, down a little bit closer to your breastbone or a little bit lower than that.
They actually go in through your brachial artery through the arm,
or your arm,
and then go into your heart and get it right from the heart and then rotate it out.
Yeah. So his had to go here, like
here being the neck, the collarbone area,
the collarbone and neck area. Sorry, I forget that we're on this, and well, because I'm looking
at it. Yeah. I knew what you were saying, Kit.
Nobody else can see me.
I know. I got it.
Katrina got me.
So yeah, instead of going in through the brachial artery, they had to go straight in to the jugular.
Yeah, basically. to his jugular. So now, if it shifted even a hair, I don't they were like, he cannot move with this thing in his neck. Now I had brought up both the girls and I'm like, are you kidding? My kids are going to want to hug him as soon as they see him. They were devastated when they saw this thing sticking out of him.
Because what you end up with is, if you're familiar with a PICC line, I don't know, or central line.
Yeah.
Okay, so a central line, but it's coming straight out of here. There's two.
Good grief.
Out of your neck.
There's two like big pen-sized things.
And you're awake?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He was wide awake.
So
he was wide awake.
I'm fascinated by the human body, have been for a very long time. So while I'm lying on the operating room table with like my mild sedative and my lidocaine to numb the area, I'm looking at the monitor and watching the catheter go in. And he's like,
you're
okay.
crazy.
He's like, okay, don't move. We're in your heart now. And I'm like, oh, that is so cool. Because you see the wire go into your heart. And I'm like, that's in my chest now. Listen, that's just kind of how I am.
Talking about that, I don't mean to talk about me for a second, but just
about you.
just to kind of drive home the fact of how fascinated by the human body he is. I had 2 C-sections. Okay.
Yep.
Both of them were emergency. Evelyn's. This man. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar. I'm sure, Katrina, you're familiar with how C-sections go, but Terry, I don't know if you are.
I
But
know
you have
of them.
they lie you flat on a bed.
Mhm.
They tie your arms, they strap your arms down to either side. Oh, so you can't move them. Your feet are strapped down. I felt like Jesus Christ literally laying on this bed, okay? Because I can't move. They had my head strapped down, everything. So, because even though you're so numb on your belly and your abdomen, as soon as they start to cut into that area, you automatically feel the urge to want to sit up. It's just your body's reaction. It's your brain telling you that's what it wants to do. So they have to strap you down. And I wanted to, like, as it was happening, I wanted to do that. This man is telling me, babe, you should see. Oh my God, that's your stomach.
Oh my God, bro.
God. He's like, and
We are opposite.
they literally shift your organs
Mhm.
out.
Yep, they just pick them up and put them out.
Yeah.
And
move around, get the baby.
He is
First
fascinated.
of all, wait a minute.
by
Time out.
it.
Time out. First of all, it's the miracle of birth, and I'm watching my daughter come into the world.
Okay, but what you focused on was my stomach and the fact that there were 4 sets of hands in my
Oh,
belly.
dude.
8 adult hands. I was
Terry
like,
can't
this
even
is
stand like seeing somebody get a needle inserted. So this is just going to send him off his rocker.
But
This is awesome.
this is how your friend is. I just want you to
We're
know.
opposite.
This is how obsessed with the human body he is. And I'm like, this man is not talking about this to me right now, is he? And he was. So the next day, it was pretty rough. I actually died giving birth to her.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I don't know if Nick ever told you that, Terry. I know he doesn't get too personal on the shows, like with the family and stuff, but since it's my story, I can certainly tell it. Yeah, I actually flatlined with her. So they rushed him out and Evelyn like quickly because they knew what was happening. So when I came to, I would say the next late afternoon, because I had her about 1:30 in the morning. And later that afternoon, when I woke up, he was, of course, just ecstatic that I was awake. And I couldn't understand why he was acting so weird. I was like, why are you acting so crazy? He was like, do you not remember any of that? I'm like, the last thing I remember was why. I remember I said, why do I not hear my baby crying?
Mm-hmm.
And I finally heard her. And then all I heard was, okay, Mr. Spade, we're going to take you and her out of the room now. And that was it. That's all I remember. I did not get to see a fancy light like everybody talks about when they have their near-death experiences. I didn't get to see any of that shit. Like, literally, I heard beeps, and then that was it.
Well, that's because it wasn't an NDE. It was almost a murder.
Yeah,
It's
right.
different.
So, so he explained all this to me. He was like, baby, you died. And I was like, shut up. No, I did not.
In my arms tonight. So,
Oh,
oh, yes, he does song references too. Oh, I found my people. So great.
sorry.
So my dad was in there and he was like, yeah, my nickname is Kitski for my family.
Okay.
He was like, yeah, Kitski, you did. And I was like, are you serious? Like, what? So I did. And then the doctor came in and explained everything. I was like, holy shit. So then 45 minutes later, he starts recapping to me how the whole thing went, like how everything looked. He was like, babe, I wish you could have seen it. I'm like, are you kidding? I'm so glad that I did not see it.
yeah.
So
yeah.
for Olivia,
Crazy,
he made sure he did not
Didn't say a
verbalize
word.
anything that he was looking at.
Okay.
Dude,
Well,
Yeah.
first of all,
I have questions for you, man.
go for it. Go for
And
it.
not to take it away from her, but dude, when she flatlined, were you
I wasn't in
What?
the room. They escorted me out of the room with Evelyn very quickly because what they saw was what had occurred was the
The epidural.
epidural and the other pain management that they were giving her that's given based on kilograms. It's based on weight. Now, the kilograms change when you remove an entire human from the
Mhm.
equation.
And I had 40 pounds of water weight that I was
So
retaining.
40 pounds of
Okay.
water disappears. A whole human disappears.
So they messed up.
So it was
No,
50
they didn't
pounds.
mess up. Her system didn't compensate quickly enough for the amount
Okay.
of medicine that was on board,
Yeah.
and it just tanked faster than the medicine could get out.
So when they rushed you out of the room, did you know exactly what just happened?
I knew something was going on because I saw a whole bunch of people moving pretty quickly.
Okay, but you weren't because flatline is like, holy shit.
No, she wasn't there yet. But they were not waiting for me to leave the room. They were pushing me out the door. So they had
Oh.
Evelyn in the incubator and they had her going, and they went and they put their hand on my solar plexus on my back, and they were like, "Okay, Dad, here we go.
Literally pushing
Let's
him
go
out
see
the
your
door.
baby." And I was like, "Okay, shit, you're throwing me out of the
So they
OR."
did a good job. I mean,
Yeah, they did what they're supposed to do. They got me out of the room. Like you see
Yeah,
those shows on
yeah.
TV where they're like, "Get him out of here." That's what they do. They were
Yeah.
literally like,
Yeah.
Because what would I do? I'd be
Wow.
He would
freaking out.
panic.
I would yelling at
He would
somebody. I
panic
yell
more than
at
anything.
somebody.
Yeah, I
So,
hear you.
because for as safe as it is, it's still not 100% safe, and it never will be.
And yeah,
So they know that no matter how good the technology is or how good anything is, there's still that component, the human component, that they can't. Everybody reacts differently to the same medication. So
Yeah. And
Wow.
18 months later, I had another kid. So, I mean,
Huh.
you know, it's crazy that it didn't scare me enough to not want to have another kid.
Right.
And I would have had a lot more kids if I had it my way, but he was not having any parts of that
Anymore.
So I wanted 5 kids. We settled with 2, obviously.
well, the priest at the wedding said, "Go forth and multiply," and we did.
Yeah.
2 times 2 is
That's-
4. There we go.
That was his
Fine.
logic
Okay.
on that.
All right.
Yeah.
Question for you, Kit, though, going back when you're saying that with the pig line and everything,
Mhm.
what do you do for you? Like, because let's be honest, we're strong, we're resilient, and we can keep it together like 99% of the times. But when we get bad news, or I speak for myself, there are moments where I get afraid. I see the coloration in his legs changing, or there's certain things that I see and it scares me, but I got to put this strong, brave front on. And then when I get in the privacy of my own home, I'll have a moment and I'll cry or whatever. But what do you do for you?
I love
when
that
you-
you just asked me that, because that is actually one of my 15 questions here.
Mm.
And it is, what do you do for yourself? To you. So, well, I don't really know what I do.
The second book of the series is coming out.
Yeah, but that's no. It took me 17 years to get one book done. So I can't even say that I focus on writing.
Do you think you just focused on the task at hand?
I think that's it. Like I've
Mhm.
never
Like the girls were little, so you could just divert to, I got to take care of the girls. Right?
Yeah. I mean,
and that's fine. Like, that's good to keep
think
diverting and
that's-
diverting, but at some point you're just going to crumble.
I think that's a really tough question, because I don't even know if I've ever actually really done anything to just, deal with you having the diagnosis. Because I know you have it, obviously, but, I think I don't have I don't have a room that I can just go to and just sit by myself. I don't have a lot of girlfriends, so I can't even like go out with them and just kind of like just let it out.
And they wouldn't even
Understand. They
Yeah.
wouldn't understand it anyway, even if I tried to,
Right.
because they all have major issues themselves, so. And I mean, I used to have his grandfather,
Bernard.
and every time, so grandpa is probably one of my biggest heroes, and absolutely Nick's biggest hero for sure. I don't know if he's ever talked about him, but he had polio.
Yes, you mentioned this before. Yes.
He still had 7 kids.
Wow.
Yes.
even having polio,
And was a traveling salesman.
was a traveling salesman, lived in an iron lung for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, he just was the most wholesome, sweetest man you could have ever possibly had the pleasure of knowing. So, because of his situation and Nick's grandmom, she just took care of the kids. She took care of the house. You know, if something was going on with Bernard, she would just do what needed to be done. And I am very similar to that. And Grandpop could see that. So every time Nick was in the hospital, before he called him, he would always call me. And I would see that it was him. And okay.
Mhm.
So I would see that it was him, and I'd be like, "Hi, Grandpa," and he'd be like, "Hello, Kit. How are
Mhm.
you?" Because that's how he talked.
Mhm.
And he said, "I hear Nikki's in the hospital again, and I just wanted to call to see how you were doing, and how are you holding up?" And he's
Yep.
like,
Wow.
everybody always worries about the one that's sick, but who's worrying about the one who takes care of them?
Right.
And every time he would do that, it just made my heart so happy. And I would just be like, God, I love this man. So, like, I understood at that, like, the first time he did it, why Nick loved him so much, because he knew that he needed to call me first, see how I was doing. Plus, I had 2 little kids.
Mhm.
And, so to hear that all the time was really awesome. And it was so frequent, like I said at the beginning. So, when we lost him, I didn't get that anymore. I don't have anybody calling to check up on me.
Yeah.
And not to be like, oh, boo-hoo, woe is me.
No.
Yeah.
I had that one person that was like, how are you?
Mhm. Mhm.
Not even from my parents, my mom and would always be like, how is Nick? What do we have to do? You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
So I don't drink. I
No,
don't
me neither.
smoke.
Me
I
neither.
don't smoke. So
Shame on you. Just joking. Just
Right.
joking.
Yeah.
I don't really do anything. I mean, I guess I don't even really let it manifest. I don't hold on to that kind of stuff, I guess.
Mhm.
I think that's the easiest way I can answer that.
Okay.
I look at it and I'm like, okay, he is back in the hospital. Or, okay, we got another diagnosis. All right, well, shit
Mhm.
happens. Let's
Mhm.
keep
Mhm.
going. We got tomorrow. The PIC line thing scared the hell out of me because of the medical things that could happen with it. Not the reason why it was happening, but the crazy stuff that could have happened with it, because it was connected directly to his heart.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that's kind of scary.
And it is a transfusion. You are getting someone's donated plasma. So
then I'm like, well, what's that? What's that
Risks
going to do?
associated there? Yeah. Yeah.
and the amount that
crazy.
so in order to be effective, they rotated out 3 liters a day for 5 days. So every day they would fill a 3-liter bag of my plasma. And
Did
give
you
me a new
have
one.
that in there for 5 days straight?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Every day.
Oh
Was,
my
yeah.
God. I was thinking it was like an
No.
hour procedure.
No.
it was 4 hours a day, 5 days in a
dude.
row.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, man. You went
So
through
that's
that.
where I learned. That's when I really started to learn how to
How
Your
many years?
meditation.
How many years ago was this?
8.
Was
8
it
years
a
ago?
About 8 years ago. 7, 8 years ago.
What
Yeah, it was
about
a
your
while ago.
grandfather? Was he alive during that?
year?
Sorry to ask you that.
No, it's fine. I don't
Yeah.
know. Was he still?
Yeah.
alive? Yeah, because it hasn't been that long.
5 years,
Mhm.
almost 6 years. Grandpop's been gone.
Yeah, so it was
Okay.
just before he
Yep.
passed. And he used to say, he had the best line. He always said, "Nicholas, only the first 100 years are the hardest."
Katrina, what do you do?
I mean, I do yoga regularly. I yoga, meditation, and then I'll try and carve out time to go for some reflexology or Reiki. Like I try to find some personal time for me. And I have a best friend who,
Okay.
while she does say, how's Terry doing today? But she always like, how are you doing? Because she knows that I'm an empath and I will pick up on everybody else's emotions. And yeah, I will always have that strong front. I will always present that because I'm going through a lot with both my parents and my mom going in at home. And there's just been every day, you don't know what's coming your way. So I have her that I can lean on and talk to. But there are times when, I'm meditating, and I'll just sit and have a good cry and then I'm good to go. I just need that 5 minutes to let it out of my system and on we go.
I would love to do your astrological chart because I'm very curious as to what your other planets are in what sign, because you are a very different Libra than I am. So I'm very curious as to where the rest of your planets fall into your signs. So I'm going to message you about that and we can talk about that later. I just wanted to get that out as I was listening to you. I'm like, that is not me. My meditation is writing.
I used to do a lot of writing as well and journaling.
That's all I do.
Yeah.
That's my meditation. I cannot sit and just meditate. I don't know how anybody does.
I love it.
It's
my favorite.
We are very alike.
I can't meditate at night though. See, when I first started, so how I got into meditation is because both of my hips had to be replaced and they were both replaced back in 2019, but had a walker. I had a significant amount of pain where I wasn't sleeping. So I went
that's when you were gaslighting Terry.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me to try and do coping with the pain management, the counselor that I was seeing at the time recommended meditation and to kind of, put and I think Nick will appreciate this, but you're visualizing that white light energy to the appropriate areas, releasing the bad. And that just really, I found that very beneficial. But
so
I
very
also
holistic and spiritual and
very much so. And I've always been like that. And my best friend my best friend will be laughing at me. She goes, you go do your witchcraft, or your voodoo, but for it works. I cannot meditate at night because I am so energized after a meditation. So I have to do it in the morning or early afternoon. But if I do it before bed,
Yeah.
Me
meditation, no.
No,
he falls asleep. He fell asleep. We did a meditation. Like my yoga instructor does solstice programs every solstice. And so it's a whole meditation and he's participated with me. And all of a sudden I hear, that's great. I'm trying to
deep meditation.
Dude, that's, I'm like, that was great.
Yeah.
He went right to delta waves.
That's how John is.
Oh yeah.
That's how John gets in those things. John is like out.
Yep.
Like,
well, that's the thing. When you have someone,
you know what? That's how I deal with everything with you.
What, sleep?
No.
Oh.
I talk to him about all of it.
Oh, right. So you do have a best friend you talk to me about. There you go.
Well, not really. I'm not allowed to really. I'm like, if it's bad and I start talking about you, he walks away from me. He doesn't let me talk. He tells me I'm not allowed to do that.
I highly doubt anyone tells Kit what to do.
Well, he tries. He tries.
Yeah, I want to talk to him one day too.
I was kind of hoping that
Nick
would have asked him to come tonight, but he didn't. And I was really surprised because, he's just as much a caregiver as, maybe not as I am, but he,
Part two.
He picks up a lot of slack at that house. Why are you giving me the eyes? He gives me the eyes when I say things. He's like, why are you talking about
it? Could have nothing to do with the fluorescent lights
get
or
out of here.
fatigue or anything.
I'm gonna have to
or that you're on my left.
Back up my boy and say I didn't see no eyes. Just
well, that's because you can't see him this far.
Question for you both, actually, and this is probably a touchy subject, but have you ever had the conversation, as Nick ever said, at a certain point when I can't do this, and this, I want to invoke MAID? And do you have MAID in America? Medically assisted?
We don't.
You don't have that? Okay.
Not an option. No.
Nope.
Actually,
not an option. Okay.
There's one state that has it, Oregon.
Oregon? Yeah, it's Oregon.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay, because it's legal in every province here, and it's becoming very much more common. You're hearing about it regularly where, hey, my mom has chosen this specific date, and then everybody gets together and has a celebration. And then, so I'm just curious, because I know we've had a few conversations and they're difficult conversations, but I think that they have to happen. or at
Oh,
least be
absolutely.
like, I mean, I've had conversations with my parents and, hey, you got to have your will. And what is it? You know, we
Yeah.
have to have these, you need to know what people's wishes are. And so I have said to Terry a few times, like, at what point when your MS progresses that you say, I'm done?
Yeah.
You know,
Because there's times I've said it already. I haven't said I need to get on the MAID program, but
Right.
like I'm done. Like I'm exhausted. It's a mentally exhausted thing, right?
But so when you have that, do you wake up the next morning and you feel okay? Or like, do
Yeah.
you not feel like that anymore?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
pretty much you wake up and
Pretty much. It's a moment thing. Yes.
Well, the
It is a
last
moment
time
thing.
It's a frustration. You're
Yeah.
pissed off, you're frustrated. Yeah.
Mhm. And I think a lot of times it's just you talking it out. Like we said, like
Yeah.
yesterday was a very difficult day for Terry. The MS was kicking him in the ass. And then mentally his mind went really dark.
Okay.
And it's just a matter, for me, I find it's just a matter of being patient. And I'm sorry. I know you
okay.
probably don't,
Real
you're
talk.
okay to
That's just what we do
Yeah.
on the show.
Okay.
talk. Go
Um,
for it.
Fine.
For me, I find it's just a matter of being
Hey,
patient
Just
and
joking. Go ahead.
letting him talk and letting him get those out and giving him
Mhm.
some time and saying, hey, have a nap. Like, and then, you know, getting him to the rock climbing. That was a big thing because I knew as much as he didn't want to go,
Dude,
I
Yeah.
knew that it would be, again, it's us interacting with other people, being physically active or, you know, getting those endorphins going. There's
Yeah.
a huge thing for your mental health when the endorphins are firing on all cylinders. So he did the rock climbing, like, and I literally drop him off and I leave because this is his space. This is his chance
Right.
to connect with people. It's not about Terry and Katrina. This is Terry's time. And
I
then
don't tell her to leave, just so you know. I don't go, you need to let me be alone here, okay?
Right.
no, that's
So,
that's
okay.
my choice.
Okay, okay.
I'm
Right.
like, no, this is your thing.
Okay.
And I want you to have that. And so then when I come back an hour and a half later, there's Terry with his grin from ear to ear. And I can
He's
tell when
happy
it's
again.
when I can tell it's a genuine grin, not a
Yeah.
I'm trying to people please and I'm trying to
Yeah.
make everybody
And I
smile.
feel bad. Like in the car, I'm like, I know I'm happy again. And she's like, yeah, I'm glad. And I'm like, fuck,
Yeah.
I'm so messed up.
And that's
But I
all we
think that
want.
that's-
We just
but I-
want you to
yeah.
be happy.
Exactly. But I think that's also part of the MS, right? Like I've read certain things where they indicate that, it could be bipolar, but you know,
I accept anything. I'm
you
not
go
like,
up, you go down, and you work through it. I think the one thing is I probably wouldn't have the patience for is if Terry wasn't putting in the work. So what
Yeah.
I mean by that is if he wasn't doing the support groups
Mhm.
or going to counseling, he's
Mhm.
physically doing what he can within his limitations. Like he's giving it his all. If he was
Mhm.
just like, I'm giving up and he didn't get out of bed, I'd be like, well, can't help you. I
Yeah.
mean, I would, but I don't think my patience would be as big as it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
What we have talked about, since we don't have that program, is we have talked about, we do have advanced directives,
Mhm.
and we have filed paperwork and filled out and talked about paperwork to what we want, what we want to have happen should we be incapacitated. So it's not like now's the time I want to be incapacitated. It's what happens should we become that way.
Mhm.
So there are, I don't want to say instructions, I guess.
Mhm.
There are instructions that I've left. What was it, like about 5-6 years ago, maybe even longer ago, that we filled out the paperwork. So it's been a while.
It was about 7 years.
About 7 years. So
Wow.
before anything happened,
3
we
years
said,
after you got diagnosed.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
like, okay, now we need to have, because every time you go to the doctor, they're like, do you have a will? Do you have an advanced directive? Do you have, so it's like, well, maybe we should have these things since I'm being asked this every
Yep.
2 to 4 months, you
What's
know?
going
Yeah.
on, Canada? They dropped the ball on me. They've never said that to me. Anyway.
So Kit knows what time frames to wait, you know, things
Yep.
like that. So it's like, if you end up in a coma, how long do you want to
Yep.
be on machines? And, you know, do you want resuscitative efforts, like those kind of things? And you're right, they are hard conversations, but they should be had, because the last thing I would want is for Kit to be in an emotional state where I'm incapacitated, and then she has to make decisions based on what she thinks I would
Yep.
do. And that's no position to be in.
No, that's
No, because then you would always question yourself.
Right. So now
I
she
make the right one?
knows
Yeah.
Yeah.
this is what we talked about. This is what
Yep.
he wants. So it's very easy. I
Mhm.
mean, not easy, but
No, it's
you know,
it's
those
it's
are
not
easy, not the actual decision,
but you know, you have to have those conversations.
Right.
And they're hard, tough conversations that you have to have. And You know, unfortunately, they are necessary.
Mhm.
You know, it sucks. And I think after losing my mom so suddenly, it was like, oh shit, like, yeah, for
Yep.
real. Like, we need to make sure our will is updated. We need, you know, we need to make sure that our medical power of attorney or advanced directives are updated, you know. And I mean, both of our girls are over 18 now. So, you know, everything just falls to them. But, you know, they're tough choices. They're
Yeah, that
tough
was weird.
decisions.
We
to
had
Yeah.
have.
we had to sit down and have a conversation like, who do we trust with the money? Who do we trust with the kids? Like, who do we trust the living situation? It was like, then you have to ask them, hey, listen, should we both die in a car accident before the kids turn
Take our
18?
kids.
Would you be cool with like dealing with all the money
Yeah.
or whatever?
So
So, go ahead.
your kids were around 10 years old when you got
10 and 8.
diagnosed.
Yeah,
Yep.
10 and 8.
Did you tell them right away what was going on?
Yes.
Yeah, it was pretty
Yes.
obvious.
So
Yep.
am I lucky that, I mean, I could be unlucky as well, but am I lucky that I don't have kids? Because I have the biggest guilt conscience that will kill me. So my guilt conscience on Katrina isn't enough. And if I had a dog when I had MS and I felt so guilty for not walking her as much as I should. So I had someone, I hired like people, but my guilt conscience kills me. So I'm so glad I don't have kids.
I don't know if I personally did a good job explaining it to them in terms that they would understand as to what was going on. I think that despite my best efforts, they thought I was dying, like actively dying.
Olivia did,
Yeah.
because she said it quite a few times. She would tell school that her dad was dying.
Oh my God.
And that was
Wow.
just like
And she
me
was
not
8.
doing enough job, good enough
She
job
just-
saying dad's going to be around for a
Yeah,
very long
she
time.
knew that dad was in and out of the hospital so
man.
much. And, you know, she would always hear us say, dad's sick, dad's sick. And, you know, it would just be, looking back on it, yeah, of course, there definitely was probably a better way to explain to them, but hindsight is 2020. And, you know, I think having him in and out of the hospital as much and, you know, carting them back and forth to school and doing all the things that I needed to do for them,
Mhm.
you know, I think we thought we were explaining it and, you know, telling them the best that we possibly could at that time.
Yep. And it did
And
happen quick. Like it was like
it was fast.
night and day. And in the hospital often is for the first 5 years, I was inpatient every 2 to 4 months for 7 days. So every 60 days, I'm out of the picture
Yep.
for a week for 5 years.
Yep. And mom would pack them up and we would go up and see him every single night and, you know, bring him something to eat
Yep.
and, you know, spend an hour with him. And,
Then
you
I
know,
get
we would
tired.
come home and wouldn't really talk about it much because the girls just knew that dad was sick.
Yep.
So
Wow.
it was tough. It was not easy. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But
It's different lives, man, that we've been through. Like we both have MS, but we've been through different
Mhm.
journeys. It's
Yep.
crazy.
So no, don't feel guilty that you didn't have kids to talk to or that you hired people to walk your dog or, like we said in the beginning, there's no user manual. All you know
No.
is
Yeah.
No.
all they ever tell you
Mhm.
is what you can't do now, what you're probably not going to do later.
yeah.
Mhm.
They don't tell you that it's okay to be a train wreck. They don't tell you it's okay to lose it completely. And like you had said, like we've been saying in these last few episodes, there's no doctor that says, okay, here's this guy, like here's all the people that you're now going to see because you need to.
Mhm.
This is your whole. So that's where MSers get jealous of people with cancer because when you get cancer, they give you a whole team.
Mhm.
You're going to have this guy and this gal. And like, when there's MS, they don't say, here's your team
Yeah.
Yeah.
to help you manage.
Yeah.
And they kind of should because they know, they being the medical community knows
Mhm.
what it's going to take. So
I know when we first met, like I would ask Terry different things and he's like, I don't know. But then when I get in the home, I'm like, well, why isn't this bar lowered? And why isn't this? And and then ended up just modifying. And Terry would get so angry and frustrated because he's like, nobody's telling me this and there's no book. And how do you know? And I'm like, well, and so we started then adapting his whole home to make it completely accessible. And then, and because I I did triathlons for 100 years. So I would start, I did a therapy program for Terry, and we would do it like 3 times a week. And Terry would again get frustrated and angry. Why isn't my neurologist telling me this? Why isn't anybody telling me do this, this, and this? And
Yeah,
we're
no,
just
no.
kind of navigating on our own. Like even he had Reiki for the first time last month. You know, it's just trying different things and what.
I'm open to everything.
Yeah.
Okay. If you like, you should try this. Okay. I'm not like, all right. So I try everything. But the thing that bothers me is that a friend of mine will be like, hey, do you see an osteopath? And I'm like, osteopath? No. And then whatever, a week later, I'm like, okay, I'll look into it. So I'll make an appointment with an osteopath because a friend of mine told me. And then we'll go to the neurologist. Excuse me. And we'll tell the neurologist we made an appointment with an osteopath. The neurologist will say, great, that's awesome. Which one are you going to go see? And then I'll tell him, oh, that's the one I would have sent you to. And then I look at Katrina, I'm like, what the
Well,
fuck?
why didn't you?
What
Yeah,
the
yeah.
fuck? And I don't say anything because I don't want to, piss off my neurologist because this guy, you say the wrong thing. He's like,
He'll
well,
call you out.
yeah. And it's like, dude, you're my doctor. And he's good. He's good. I hope to God he's not listening again.
He's a good guy.
He's a good guy.
He's a straight shooter. Because when I ask him, I'll ask a lot of different questions, and
Yeah.
he's not talking to me like I'm an idiot. And he's
good.
He's brutally honest, and that's what
Yeah.
that's what I want when I'm asking these questions.
Well,
I don't want you to sugarcoat anything.
He doesn't tell us you should see this, you should see that. He's like, good for you. So yeah, good for me. Like anyway, you get what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
Kit's not a fan of my neurologist.
Well,
because he has no bedside manner.
He has absolutely
what's his name? I'll tag him.
no bedside manner at all.
And I don't care about
it's
that.
very frustrating for me. Now, he's very nice to me. Don't get me wrong.
Mhm.
You know, he comes in and he's like, oh, hi, Kit. And he shakes my hand. And I'm just like, I just kind of look at him. But I don't know what it is about him that frustrates me. Because Nick is very good at advocating for himself. I will give him credit for that. Like
Another thing
I
Bernard told
will
me.
I will have all of these things that I want him to ask for, or that I want him to ask his questions about. And he's like, I already have that, babe. Don't worry about it. I'm like, oh, okay, well, great. And then he comes home and he's got like 9 scripts, and he's like, all right, well, I got this for, adaptive stuff for the car, and I got this for that. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. What am I doing here? What am I even doing here?
I want one of everything I qualify for.
Yes.
If I qualify for it, I'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hear you.
Because
I'm still, yeah.
I get it.
Sorry, Nick. Didn't mean to cut
no,
you
it's
off.
okay, because when you're dealing with a panel of unknown individuals that are deciding your fate, insurance companies or whomever it is, I want to throw everything at them to see how many things they approve, because if they approve it, that means strangers who deal with profit and loss based on human lives, because they look at, how much money are they spending on MS patients this month. I want them to say, yeah, you actually do qualify for this. So then I can process in my head, people I've never met said, yes, I should have these things, so I should probably have them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is.
Yeah, that's one thing I wish Terry would advocate more for himself. I seem to be the strong arm, the one about that, going, you should call your doctor. And certain things will come up, and I'm like, call your doctor. And I'll keep on him. Have you booked an appointment for your eyes? Have you done that? And then I feel like I'm mothering him, which I hate that feeling, but it's me trying to advocate for you.
I hate when like her friend might say like, don't mother him. No. I'm okay with it. I know I have an ego and everything, but I'm okay because the support she gives me, I'm okay with. I want that because I don't get that from anybody else.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm not going to beat him.
Do you not do that because you feel like you're like imposing on doctors or places, or like you're bothering them? Like, do you feel like you're an inconvenience to them? Is that what's going on? Like, you don't want to be an inconvenience to them? You know what I mean? I'm
going to answer that question for Terry. And Terry feels that he's a burden to everybody.
That's what I was trying to get at. Yeah.
Whatever situation it is, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, I'm going to smack the sorries out of you right now if you stop. Like, well, but so he's constantly, I don't want to burden them. I don't want to bother them. And I'm like, no, this is your health.
I can
bother the snot
picture
out of them.
that because I listen, Nick, every time those two are having a conversation, Nick, I can hear the voice memos.
Mhm.
And I hear Terry, and I always say to Nick, does he think he's bothering you?
Yeah.
Dude, this is my issue in life. I get it.
And I'll hear you say it. I'm sorry, dude, for bothering you. And I'm like, does he know you're literally not doing anything right now? Like literally nothing.
Terry, I'm an
Doesn't
international
matter.
man of
Conversation with him.
mystery. I'm always busy.
Doesn't matter. I'm always busy too. Even if
Just
I'm not-
know you're never bothering him.
Yeah.
Ever.
I
'Cause
understand that, but
if he answered, you're not bothering him.
Mhm.
Like at all.
Yeah.
And,
And
your doctors and all those people, like that's their freaking job.
Mhm.
They need to do that, you know, and I don't give a shit what everybody else is going through. What you're going through, that's what matters to you. And that's it. Like, if there's
Mhm.
somebody else who's sicker, okay, I'm sorry, but I'm worried about me, you know, and I'm worried about how sick I am or whatever the hell it is that I need. And obviously, you know, I know that that's easier said than done. And thank goodness you have Katrina, because you know, she seems to kind of put a foot up your ass when you need it, which is
Yep.
good.
sometimes sideways.
That's
sometimes-
okay.
Okay. Okay.
That's okay.
Okay.
And you know, and a lot of times we don't notice it, so we have to hear it from you. So if you say like,
Yeah,
have you done this, and be like, I didn't even think I had to.
that's
like-
true.
Dude, I've done more for myself in the last 3 years, 4 years with her than I have the 10, 12 years I had MS before.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
like
I
I've
believe
really
that.
progressed. My place is so perfect. I now me saying this, you know, I really love my life right now. I do. I
Good.
love it until something, you know, slows me down. And then I'm a big asshole. But I really do love my life. I love my home. I love everything that's going on right now. I love how we have this thing where we'll go out and we'll do adventures and stuff, new adventures. Everything's great. It's just
You
those
found your
hiccups.
person.
I did. I'm lucky. And
You
I
found your
never say that
person.
in group. And Nick knows this. In group, I never
Yeah.
go, oh, this, I'm so lucky. I never bring
Now
her
I
up.
know. He
because
tells me.
I don't want other people to feel like, oh, you know, there's a couple people that are single because they've gone through divorces or whatever.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for them because they think they'll never find someone. And I don't want to be like, hey, my life is perfect. I got the perfect person. You know, I just don't do
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, he tells me that he doesn't talk really about personal stuff. So I assume if he doesn't, you certainly don't.
No, that's not MS related. No.
And the first 4 years of Instagram, I never even mentioned her because
Yeah.
I didn't want people to assume she lives with me or she's helping me. No, I'm who I am. I'm independent. Anyway, this is my ego now
Yeah,
kicking in.
that's okay.
But I am lucky. I am so lucky. I'm not saying that's because she's right here. I mean, come on. But it could have been so much worse,
But
especially during COVID.
it's been a process and it's been a journey. Like when he says, oh, we go out in the car and go for adventures. Yeah, that took 2.5 years to get him to get in the car
It was,
Yeah.
and
I'm sure.
go. And, you know, everything would have to be, hey, Terry, you want to go for dinner? Well, when? And you could not do anything the same day or the next day. It had to be, you know, 3 days later. And then that
Yeah.
day of, you'd be like, no, I can't because, you know, I haven't used the washroom for a few days. And
Stop. Just joking. Just joking.
just slowly working and going, okay, so what's the worst thing that's going to happen? You pee your pants. Did you die? No, get over it. Then I know
Right.
that that's not you know, if a therapist is going to say get over it, it's not the right word, but it's like, if you look at the grand scheme of things, what's the worst that's going to happen? And is it really that bad? No. So enjoy your life. Because you know, and we've all seen other people with illnesses, or like, I mean, I've lost some friends very early on in life. So it's like, enjoy every day.
Mm.
And so he's now living, at least for me, he's like, hey, want to go here? Yep. I just need a moment, and boom. And we're doing so much more than we did 3 years ago, which is great.
Yeah.
And so
Patient. Like patient. Like I'm not even going to get into it. Sometimes I act up, but not like just in general. And I'm like, how is she still here? She's still like,
there are times when I'll tell you to stop acting like a 5-year-old because I got no patience for a 5-year-old. But
I'm not a
You know, I
5-year-old.
think that's the age that all of us women go to with men as well, because Nick will do something and I'm like, why are you acting like a 5-year-old right now?
5?
And I'm like, what are you, 5? I don't know. It just flows, I guess. It just
Yeah.
sounds, it sounds like a good age.
yeah. Or they'll be like, oh, babe, I cut myself. Did you cut yourself, or is it a man cut? You know, and
So-
and I'm envisioning like, you know, gushing blood and stuff. And it's like a paper cut.
It is so funny. That is one thing I cannot relate to with other women. My husband is not that man. He is not the man cold. He is not the man. Where are you guys going?
Go do your thing and then kick.
Yes, we're setting a record.
So he doesn't ever do that to me. Like he's
Okay.
not, if he's sick, he will fight through it. He
Mhm.
doesn't complain. Like sometimes Katrina, he is sick and I don't even know that he's sick, like normal sick, not not the MS, like a normal cold or like, stomach ache or something like that. And it takes me hours. And it's not because I'm not in tune to him. It's because of how well he masks that particular part of him. The MS, he can't really mask. It's,
No.
it's too hard for him. And I'm so in tune on paying attention to that now.
Mm-hmm.
But like, if he doesn't feel good, I don't know it. He's still going to take the trash out for me. He's still going to help me make dinner. He's still going to do this and that. And then all of a sudden he sits down and I'm like, baby, you okay? And he just looks at me. He's like, I haven't felt good all day. I'm like, are you kidding? Like, what's the matter?
Yeah.
And then if he gets a cold, he will tell me, I have a cold. I'm going to go sleep it off. There's no complaint. There is absolutely nothing. This man is the rule to that exception of, the man cold.
Right.
And I feel like I have my girlfriends and they'll say to me, oh my God, they'll be complaining about, their husband being sick or whatever, or their boyfriend. And I'm like, I don't know what that's like.
So,
because he doesn't.
Before, about a year before my diagnosis, I spiked a fever while I was at work. And I don't, you know what I did, right? I worked in law enforcement.
Yes.
Officer. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was at my assigned post and I had a fever of 101. And there's a whole period of time that I don't remember. I know that I was standing in one location and I remember I woke up in the hospital. But
oh, wow.
An entire sequence of events had occurred that I did in like a fever dream state.
Yeah.
Okay.
And didn't know that I was on my way to the hospital because I just don't remember.
Wow.
But I was at work and
I went and picked him up.
They literally pulled me off my post.
I went and picked him up and he got in the car and he was freezing cold. And it's like May. It was like May. And I was like, why are you so cold? So he cranks the heat up and we're on our way. Like I'm taking him to the hospital, whether he wants to go or not. I don't give a shit. We're going to the hospital. Terry, this is before Nick got diagnosed. This is like a year before he got diagnosed. So we pulled into the hospital and they're taking forever to take him back. I am raising holy hell in, the waiting room. And I'm like, you know what? If my husband dies right here, I'm going to own this goddamn hospital. Oh, I was going off. So they took him back. They finally took his temperature. They saw that he, it was actually 103.9 by the time he got back there.
Mm-hmm. Then it was over 104 by the
time. And then, so then
wow.
by the time they finally started to take care of him, after I walked out to the nurse's station and started raising holy hell again, they finally came back and they took his temperature and it was 104.6. I was like, okay, yeah, he's literally turning into a vegetable. Like you need to do something here. And so they finally, did what they needed to do. And, he had this infection. And so they had to clear out the infection. This man was telling me his Nick, go ahead, babe.
Well, you're talking about, so we're talking about the metaphysical, we're talking about the near-death experiences, she had said about the light and all. And so I was gone. I don't know how I got to where I got to, but I just know that I wasn't in the hospital anymore. I wasn't at work anymore. I just knew that I was somewhere else. And when I came back from that place, I I described it, and Kit was like, yeah, that was your waiting room
Yeah.
for the hereafter.
Yeah.
So
He was on his boat,
I was like,
and I was there.
I felt warm, like
Mhm.
very warm, because there was a sun that was a lot closer than it should have been, but it was like very close in my field of view. And I just remember it just felt warm and calm, and I was ready to do whatever was. I was like, fine, there's nobody here but me, but everything's fine. And then I just remember
Wow.
I got pushed back and woke up in the hospital again.
Wow.
Yep.
I've,
So-
I've read so much about near death. Like I'm just fascinated by by that.
So to describe the scene,
I didn't get this fanciness when I had Evelyn.
No.
It was very boring.
well, honestly, thinking back on it, it was probably because the medication that you were on was depressing
allow me
all of
to.
your
Yeah,
everything.
absolutely.
So it was just blank.
Absolutely.
But I was sitting on this very steep incline of a beach. Like it was very like almost a vertical wall, but it was very steep of a beach, and it dropped into like very deep water. There was no shallow end of the pool, so to speak. So it dropped into like the ocean, and it was just this vast nothingness of water. But it was very calm, like lake water. So you have these very little, these very small waves, and I remember the sun was right there. I felt really warm. I felt like I don't know what's happening, but I feel like everything's fine, and everything is okay,
So,
and everyone is okay. And
I believe from all the research that I've done, I believe that is what triggered the diagnosis of the MS so early in his life.
Yep.
I believe that incident, that infection that he had, is what caused it to wake up in him so much sooner.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, I know it would have eventually, because obviously, he was born with it. I think it just would have taken a lot longer had this infection not happen.
But yeah,
because it was not even a year later that he was diagnosed with MS.
Yeah, but I hit all the markers. Like I had mono when I was a teenager.
Yep.
My mom has Epstein-Barr, so like Epstein-Barr is in me. I had mono. I had the fever. I hit all these things. So it was.
Every time you say that, I think of what's his name on Saturday Night Live. I got the fever. See, Terry, I do the same shit. I sit there, I make the most obscure references, and people look at me like, what? I'm like, you know what? You don't get it. You are not with me on this. You just don't get it. Live in my head.
It was bound to happen.
Yeah.
And
it's when you say, interesting, because since Terry and I have been together, he's not had a cold. He hasn't had the flu. He has not had any of those. I mean, I've had COVID, I've had the cold, like throughout the duration, and he hasn't. However, I can tell when his body is fighting something, because I can tell from the color of his skin or just his whole behavior. And it's interesting because I'll look at him and I can just touch him and go, because he'll be really cranky or he'll be really, really tired. And I can just touch, like whether it's his neck or his shoulder. And I'm like, yeah, you're on fire. Let's get a cold cloth. And the moment we got a cold cloth on him, boom, within 5 minutes, he's good. Like it's
the second it touches me, I'm like, oh, what are you doing? And then like 10 minutes later, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so happy. It's the truth.
But that's the thing. When you have cellular inflammation, it really affects how we think.
And that's how we figured out that heat and humidity here in Southern Ontario is brutal. But that's how we figured out that Terry's body does not respond well.
Come on, man.
To the heat.
I didn't even figure it out myself. She figured it out for me. I'm in her car playing with my little drone, and it's a hot day. I'm outside, I'm like looking at my drone, and then all of a sudden I'm a zombie. Dude, I don't even realize it, but I can't even lift my arms. I'm so tired. I mean, I'm still good. I'm still functioning, but it's obvious that I'm just very sluggish and
that fatigue kicked in.
Yeah. And I never took that serious. I was just like, no, I'm just tired,
No, there's something more going on, because he would go really, really pale.
Nick Nick gets the same way. He gets very white.
Yeah.
Very, very pale.
And then sometimes I know, Kit, you don't like this. I'll just say to him, have you eaten today? Because Terry is known for skipping meals, and it drives me nuts. But so I can tell.
So is Nick.
And I'm like a meal prepper. Like Sunday mornings for 2 hours is my prepping for the week.
I'm
And
so
I've
sick
got
of this. She'll wake up and go, "What are we having for dinner? What do you want to?" I'm like, "Dude, it's too
Oh,
early
I
for
do
me.
that. I
It's
do that
too
too.
damn early."
I'll be
you
like,
gotta
he'll be-
prepare, right?
yeah,
You gotta take
he'll
whatever
be
out the
eating-
freezer.
He'll be eating breakfast, and I'm like, "Oh, baby, what do you think you want to do for dinner tomorrow?" And he's like,
Dude,
"Tomorrow. I'm eating breakfast today. That's tomorrow." I'm like, "But
I'm
you
all-
don't understand."
Like, there's all these things happening throughout the day. I
Yes.
need to make these decisions and get whatever we need done now, so that because when 5 o'clock rolls around, I might not have the energy to want to
Yeah.
even cook, and it's going to be a
Yeah.
girl supper with chips and dip. So if I prep
I
in the
love
morning,
that.
guess what? We're having a salmon dinner.
But see,
love that.
I could eat the same 3 things every single day.
I
Like
can't.
my meal
Oh,
prep
What
no,
is
no, no,
wrong
no.
with you, bro?
20
I
minutes.
can't.
My meal prep is 20 minutes.
Listen.
Breakfast is this, lunch is that, dinner is
I
that.
am an
Done.
amazing freaking cook.
Mhm.
Okay. And I love to experiment. I love to make a
Yeah.
different recipe. You know, I'm allergic to onions. So like I try to make a lot of stuff at home because I know that there's no onion in it. So I'm safe. And I will just, you know, he looks at me and he's like, chicken and rice is fine.
What else you need?
And I'm like,
Uh,
that's so
Chicken, rice, and broccoli.
boring.
Covered.
That's what you give a dog when they've got an upset stomach, is chicken and
Right?
rice.
So
I
Yeah.
never had an upset stomach.
boring.
Hey, be nice to my buddy here.
So I'm sorry. I'm
But
sorry.
no, she's so right. Like that's I don't know. Like me,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I love making all different types of meals and stuff, and then I'll make it for him, and he's like, "I don't want any sauce." I'm like, "What? What?
Oh, but
I don't want any cheese." I'm like, "Oh, good gosh."
That's John.
But I can see Terry's point, because listen, if you had to move yourself to the bathroom the way that Terry does, you'd be a lot more conscious about what sauces are on your chicken.
True. That's true. Speaking of moving yourself. So one thing I have noticed since Nick has been using the chair more and more. Okay.
Mhm.
When we go out, I have noticed the ground more often.
Mhm.
And
yeah.
you know, like, do you like notice yourself, Katrina,
Mhm.
you know, either walking ahead of him or next to him or whatever, always looking at don't roll over that, roll around that, you know, be careful, because you know, I see people spitting and I'm like, oh, like, are you
Gum, yeah.
not aware of the fact that like there are people that's like their hands, their wheelchairs are literally their hands, and they are riding through that, and now they have it all over their
I wear the
hands.
gloves.
Even the gloves. Like
I gotta
that's
wa-
not the point.
Dude, yeah, I hear you. I always tell people, I give her credit, and you don't know what we go through unless you're in a wheelchair, and she always says, "I know, I don't know," and I always say, "Yeah, you do." I look at you like you're in a wheelchair too, because of the shit I've been through. She's right next to me,
Sure.
making sure I'm okay, and so I want to make sure that she knows that I'm not biased. I don't know how to put it,
But
but
I'm
I'm
taking
not
it for granted.
like,
Mhm.
you know what I go through, and I give you
Yeah.
so much credit. And yeah, Joe, Bob, they don't, you know what I mean? Unless they see or whatever. But
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I have we purchased like a 2-foot ramp that I keep in the back of my vehicle all the time. So if we go anywhere and there's the slightest bit of a barrier, I can just pull it out of the back of the car and away we go. Like his barber. Oh yeah, it's accessible. It's accessible. No, it's not. There was like this big lip on
know-
the sidewalk, and it turned out like there was another woman there who'd brought her mom, who was in an electric scooter, and they were like lifting the scooter up.
Oh, they're
and
heavy.
They're brutally, and so we ended up using the ramp to
Dude,
let
we were
her
best
get
friends.
out. Yeah.
they loved us because they already went in. We went in, and this ramp is a really good ramp, but it's only 2 foot long.
Mhm.
So it's curbs, you know what I mean? That's
Mhm.
what it's for. It's
It's
not.
small steps, like getting to my
Mhm.
parents' home, but it's been effective, right? Because then it removes that barrier, and it
Right.
allows us to do what we had intended to.
But it's
head out
funny
for.
because this barber that I was seeing, I don't see him anymore, but we broke up. And what happened was I needed to use the ramp, and I was okay with it because I'm like, oh, this is such a great place. But now I'm dependent on her, and I'm okay with that, dude. You know what I mean? But she now has to take time off her schedule. I got to feel guilty. because sometimes, she wants to do something else. You know how it is. And she's always I'm always dependent on her. So it sucks because this barber is like, I'm going to get a ramp. And then like 6 months later, it's like, where's the ramp, bro? I feel like I should buy a ramp and just keep it here. And I'm the dumbass that does stuff like that. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, I'll just buy you. Don't waste. I don't want to burden you and you spend your money. I'll get it for you. And then you can use it with everybody else, but he never did that. So I'm like, back to my old barber. I really hope he's not listening to this.
You're fine.
What do you mean? We're huge. Everyone's going to listen to this. Okay.
This is true.
It's gonna get tens and tens of likes.
This is gonna get tens and
Yeah.
tens of views.
Yeah.
So you don't have to answer if you're not comfortable. But it's personal.
Mhm.
Your intimacy. How is it?
That is a subject that has never come up on this show.
Never.
Really?
Ever.
Mhm.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So do you?
I'm shocked.
Why? Do you think
Yeah,
just guys are just
Well, no, because you've had other women on the show. Like, I don't know. I guess I'm just surprised.
hosted by two guys?
I don't
you know,
know.
guys, I'm open about this, right? And I have told people, and then I regret it after because I'm like, what am I doing? But intimacy, yes and no.
Okay.
Obviously the nerves are not there for me, so it's difficult at
Mhm.
times.
Mhm.
So it's patience. Also, my hormone levels obviously is off.
Mhm.
So it's very hard for me to be in the mood also. But then there's times when she's like, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, yeah. You know what I mean? So
I do
it's-
know what you mean.
Yeah. I think for me, holding hands, like the very
That's so
simple things to
lucky,
me
dude.
is very intimate. Having long conversations, just lying in bed talking for 2-3 hours, that to me isn't. It doesn't have to be the physical. For me, it's that emotional connection, and just holding the hand, having to me, there's all varying ranges of intimacy. And for me, out of all of my past relationships, this is the most comfortable, the most authentic that I've been able to be. And and even though it's not as physical as previous ones, this is the most intimate relationship that I've been in.
Mhm.
It,
Which is why I said intimacy, not just sexual.
it's not,
because I get
Mhm.
that. I mean, I think we both can say, Nick and I can both say that we get that.
Mhm.
I started going through the change just a few years ago.
Now, isn't it great?
I hate life daily because of it. It is awful. Between my hormones, being completely out of whack, not even caring if we're doing anything ever. Like for months, I don't care, a year, whatever, doesn't matter to me. I don't give a shit because it's just how my body feels.
I get it.
And, he has his own issues, and it's kind of like you said. So, I prefer just hold my goddamn hand.
Yeah.
A
a little hard to
when-
do when you're pushing a wheelchair, though.
Well, we do it. We do it though. And what we
I'm
do,
kidding.
Nick, is we
I'm
have
kidding.
fun with it. Is I'll take Terry, and then you can wing them for you're going down the shopping aisle holding hands, and then just go.
It's the old
and you
roller
just-
derby whip.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
fun. We have fun with it, but then he'll, of course, being the jokester that he is, he'll be like, making comments, inappropriate ones.
You know how females will say, oh, I can't wait to go home and take off my bra.
Yes.
In a grocery store, she's saying this to her friend, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to go home and take out my catheter.
Yeah.
And then everyone's like, what the hell did he just? And then there's someone else walking, and he's like, did he just say that? I don't have a catheter,
Disability
but-
humor. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
I'm fairly happy I don't have to deal with that yet.
No, I mean, because I know a couple of people,
Sure.
a few people
Yeah,
that are,
we
you know what I
do.
mean? So I'm not hating on,
Yeah.
it
Nope.
happens, right?
No, like I
Yes.
said, it's
So-
a disability joke.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, of course.
So, I guess that's because other people, people see him and, he stands up, upright, and, they always say, oh, you look so good, Nick. I fucking hate it when
Oh.
people say that to him.
Yeah.
I know how mad he gets.
Oh.
Lord knows I get even more mad.
I have a
because-
few friends that I've had for a long time who do it as a
As a
meme
joke,
joke now
as an asshole.
because they know
Okay.
how much I hate
Yeah.
it. So they're like, "Hey, Nick, looking good, buddy." I'm like, "Oh, thanks, dude."
But I know how much it bothers him, and I know how much it bothers the whole MS community with, but you look so good. And it's like, well, what the fuck did you think I was going to look like?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, no, like that's not what you say to an individual. Like
Right.
the etiquette with how people talk to people with disabilities like this
Mhm.
blows my mind.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, don't be dumb. Like, think
Well,
about
you
those
can't
words before
fix
you're
stupid.
saying that. Well,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
But think about your words before you say that. Would you want someone to come up to you and you lost 3 pounds and you just told them you lost 3 pounds? Oh, you look so good. Or, oh, really? You just lost 3 pounds? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah.
Just say, it's
Yeah.
good to see you. That's it.
Yeah. It's
That's
interesting. With
Or how are you feeling?
Yeah, it's just very straightforward. And people don't know. And this is something that I learned through Terry. When people are making certain comments, they don't realize how it's kind of a backhanded
Mhm.
comment. And I can't think of one off the top of my head at the moment, but
Yeah.
um,
That's when you say you look good for a blonde.
yeah.
That's a backhanded
Yeah,
comment.
yeah. And I'm trying to think of some for the wheelchair, but like
Yeah.
the organization that I work for,
I
they've got
can't remember now.
they've got a variety of different groups that take initiatives. So we have ones that they educate us on the dialogue for different ethnicities in our
Mhm.
organization. So we have one that's for disabilities, or ability first is what they call it. And they're actually having a guest speaker in December who is a woman, is CEO, and she has MS. And they're going to be educating us on what are the appropriate things to say to somebody that is in a
Awesome.
wheelchair, or like basically disability in particular. And what's interesting is my best friend, who also worked for the same company, is like, are you going to this? And I'm
Dude.
like, yeah, I think so. She goes, I've already
Yeah.
signed up, because like my best friend who always asks questions, and like even when she first met Terry, was asking tons of questions because you don't know what you don't know. And
Right.
you know, ask the person, get it right from the horse's mouth. So they say, right. If you want to know. And so, yeah, there's a bunch of my friends that are actually taking it because they want to know, like they think they're saying kind things or complimenting, but it actually can be, oh, that's it, is when like, oh, you're such an inspiration.
Oh.
And Terry's like, what, I inspire you to not walk? Like, do you know, like there's all these comments. And so this is what this program, this 1 hour session is going to be. It's just how to appropriately.
One of Dr. Wagner's questions to me, which I don't think he asked, was, what's with this inspiration porn? That's what he called it.
Yeah, him and I spoke about that.
Oh,
and
okay.
He said, how do you feel about inspirational messages and people with disabilities? And I told him, I said, it paints it in, it gives it a comparison to people who don't have that disability. So, you know, why am I inspiring? Because I woke up, got dressed, had breakfast, and went about my day. Everybody does that.
Everybody, yeah.
It's a reminder that you're disabled when they say that to me.
Yes.
Yeah. And what the inspirational part is, I've come to interpret that as an able-bodied individual without a chronic illness, I am terrified of having one. So I know that I will be okay because I look at you and you're doing fine. You're not that bad. So you're inspiring me to not be scared about what I'm afraid of. That's really what I get from it.
And
it's a good analogy.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah,
really good
absolutely.
analogy.
I think, you know, going back to, you know, people saying, oh, but you look good. You know, there are times where, you know, I'll go out, and if Nick's not with me, like if I go to the Giant or Walgreens, and it doesn't happen often where Nick and I are not together. I mean, we literally spend almost every hour together. Okay. So the rare times that I'm by myself and I'll run into someone I know, they're like, oh, I saw that Nick was in the chair. I'm sorry. He must be doing bad. And I understand that people are trying to be empathetic to the whole thing. And like, I curb so much when I am by myself, especially because, yes, I'm a hothead and I do have a temper and I do have an attitude. But I also know that when when I'm out in public and it's, just someone bringing that to my attention, they're not doing it like, they're not trying to do it in a negative way.
Right.
I know it's them just saying like, oh, he must be getting really sick now, and I'm just kind of like, well, when the weather goes from 70 to 40, it kind of kicks his ass.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how I justify it, because that's why he had to use the chair, or because we're walking around one of the farmers markets and it's a huge building. So instead of him fatiguing out literally, 50 feet, he uses the chair as, to help him. So when people say that, if at first it was always like, whoa, like, why would you say that? Now I know it's because they don't know what else to say. And instead of just saying, oh, I saw Nick was in the chair the other day, everything good? But
Or just say, I saw Nick
or
the other day.
say,
Yeah,
or
that-
just
yeah.
say, or just say, oh, I saw Nick the other day.
Yeah.
Instead of, oh, I'm really sorry. He must be doing bad. What? He's doing
Actually,
fine.
no, it's great. He's great. He's able to go through the whole
Yeah.
market. Yeah,
Yes.
we did this.
How did he like start sitting in a chair in front of you? Because dude, I am impressed, because I should have been in a chair way before, like using it like you part-time. Instead, I'm like, no, I'm not going to touch it until I have to use it, which is a no-no because things got worse, whatever. I would have lived a more comfortable life doing what you did.
I think having Grandpop was easy. And I think that's why. I think him knowing that he was still going to be okay, he was still going to wake up the next morning when he sat in a wheelchair. Like, he always says to me that he'll know when he needs to be in it permanently. And I trust that he knows, because he knows his body.
Yep.
And
but see, also Grandpa's advice was,
once you get in that chair,
well, he said humans aren't built to sit down, so
Yeah.
move as much as you
Move
can.
as
So
much
it
as
wasn't
you can.
all like, he was very real about it.
yes,
because
he absolutely was.
he hated his wheelchair, and he used two canes. He always
Okay.
had two
For a
canes.
while, he did.
For my entire life, he had
Yep.
two canes.
And
So-
then I would say within the last like 4 years of his life is when he started using the chair, because he physically needed to. He just wasn't strong enough to hold himself up on those canes anymore, on his crutches anymore.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think when Nick saw that, he was kind of like, okay. And I have to give credit to his mom. She was very proactive with Grandpop. She was very hands-on with, all of his needs, everything that, his shopping, the doctor's offices. And so she had firsthand knowledge of dealing with one of the wheelchair places, the custom wheelchairs. And that was the one thing I knew nothing about. Like, all of the navigating through Medicare, through all the paperwork, through everything, that kind of stuff, you put that in front of me, man, I'll get it done within 2 hours. This, I didn't have a clue. So when his mom was like, let me take care of this for you, I was so grateful for her for doing that. And like, she knew what to ask for. She knew, the specific things for this, and make sure that this is the right height and this is the right, everything. And when he got this chair, it was like the most badass chair around,
Which is
coolest chair ever.
Which it was built in Canada, by the way.
So, and I
Right
think
on.
that was
That's
also
why.
helpful.
Nice chair.
It was a cool, it is a cool chair. It's custom for him.
Yeah.
So, when you're in the hospital wheelchairs, you feel sick.
Yes, and this chair is independence.
When you're in that chair, that's Terry's chair.
Yeah.
That's Nick's chair.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, no holding back. That's what you get. So I think that's how I felt. That's how I saw him. He had no issues really getting it. He had no issues. Now it's like, I yell at him.
Yeah.
when I think he needs to use it. I'm like, babe, why didn't you just bring your damn
Dude,
chair?
before she's in the picture, I end up being in the chair, but dude, never have I had support from anybody. And this is what I tell everyone when they're like, oh, my sister has MS. I right away go to,
Oh, everybody has MS.
yeah. But
Everybody
I
knows
right
somebody.
away become an advocate for that person. I'm like, does she need to sit down? No, she's fine. You think she's fine, man. Make sure she's sitting down. That's how I get to, because I'm like, dude, but just like you said, as soon as I sat in the chair, it's because I needed to, because I was having problems walking. But the second I sat in the chair, I don't know, maybe a couple months later, I realized I got no legs anymore. Like I can stand up, but I can't
Yeah.
move my legs in a while. So I obviously lost it because I sat in a chair. But dude, I like, my life was uncomfortable not sitting in a chair.
Yeah.
So I feel guilty again. My guilt conscience kills me, but I feel guilty, like I gave up. Because always in groups, people say, I never want to give up and sit and get in a chair. I never want to
that
give
comes
up
up a
and
lot.
end up in a
But
chair.
you know what?
Fuck,
It's
that
easy
pisses me
for
off.
but it's easy for them to say that because obviously they have not hit that point where they
Right.
have to make that decision.
Right.
You hit that point where you had to make that decision, and that is not anybody's fault. That's not your fault. It's MS's fault. That's what it is. That is not your fault that you had to
Right.
sit in that chair. So like, I hope you keep talking to your counselor about your guilt, because you have a lot of it. And that's a shame. That really, really blows, because that's got to be really hard to live with that. But like I said before, don't ever feel like you're bothering him. Like, truly.
So I'm gonna be like, yo, sorry, bro, but Kit told me I'm allowed to talk to you.
The thing with getting into the chair, it actually like opened up his life, because before, if he was with the cane, he couldn't have a conversation with you because he's so concentrating on not falling. Now he's in the chair, and it's like, hey, and so there can't be any guilt associated with, I got to do what's right for my body so I can enjoy every freaking moment. Yeah. Like I remember the first time he did a grocery store with me, because he was always having deliveries for everything. And I took him, I said, come to the grocery store with me. He was like a kid in a candy shop, because it had been a few years. And also there's a lot of things you can't reach on the shelves.
Yeah.
He couldn't get into the freezer for the ice cream and stuff. My gosh, Kit, this grocery cart was just overflowing. It had everything and anything. And it was just, it was a really cool experience. He's like, can you get me this? How about this? How about you? Yeah, sure. Whatever.
That was me.
And they make, I'm really sorry. Can we get it on this aisle? I'm like, hey, I had nowhere to be.
I love it.
We'll go back.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nick, when he is in the chair, he has a smile on his face because he's so relaxed.
Yeah.
And he's so comfortable. Like, because like you said, he's not focusing on keeping himself upright with his double crutches or his cane. He's not worried about his left leg literally going out on him, because it happens while he's just standing there. He gets to just relax, and he doesn't care about the people looking at him. I'm the one that cares about the people looking at him. He doesn't give a shit.
Dude,
and I don't care.
Oh
Like if he gets all look at that person looking at me, I'm like, fucking cares, dude. Like just get on. Like really, just that's their issue. If that's what their thing in life is, to kind of look at you and make comments, then they need to get a life. Like it doesn't bother me.
I was at Tim Hortons. Was it yesterday?
Yeah, it was yesterday.
Oh my God. I was at Tim Hortons, a coffee shop. It's like the Canadian coffee shop. And this guy's backing into me because he has to go back to the printer to grab. I don't know what he was doing. And I'm looking at him, dude, my eyes, devil look. I'm fucked. And she's looking at me like, she's like, relax.
Whatever.
I'm like, you tell me to relax. I'm fucking going crazy. And I'm sitting there in a scooter, by the way. And I hate using the scooter.
Oh, your scooter. Yeah.
Yeah, man. And
like
I'm
that.
always like, dude, it's so bulky. And everyone's like, it's just so annoying, man.
Yeah,
And
but
this
you needed
guy's-
the cup holder.
Dude, I threatened the guy. Like, as he's backing up, I'm like, yeah, you come back anymore, I'm going to slap you. I said that, but I'm not a fighter. Believe me, I'm not a fighter. I don't touch people, but I have my mouth that goes. And I'm like, yo, come any closer to me, I'm going to slap you. And then I don't know what happened. I'm gone. I don't even remember what happened. But I'm like, get the hell out of here. I don't know what I was saying.
And I'm like, really? It's not worth it.
Dude, he never responded to me. He never, nothing. So I don't know if he's like, yeah, this guy crazy. And at the same time, everyone thinks she's my caregiver next to me. Like, do you want a donut? Like, that's what I feel.
One
You
of
know,
my
sometimes she looks at me and she's like, "Do you want a sandwich?" She'll say this to me. "Do you want?" And I'm like, "Stop talking to me like I'm a child." It's not that she talks to me like I'm a child. I just think everyone's looking at her going,
Yeah.
"Do you want a donut?"
Yeah. So you need to
Yum, yum, yum.
stop worrying about what other people think because
Yeah.
who cares?
Yeah. That's
my
hard.
one of my favorite things that happens a lot when I'm in the wheelchair, specifically at this one farmer's market we keep
Ugh.
referencing, is when kids who are naturally curious are like, there's an adult at my eye level. Like they're everywhere I go, these kids are like straining their arms, like looking back, like
Trying to
Yeah.
figure out
wow.
what is that?
Yeah, they're like,
Yeah.
wow, he gets to ride his bike inside. You know what I mean? Like, so I make it a point to just like wave to
Wave
the
to them,
kids that
and,
are
Yeah.
they'll shyly wave back or like smile or something.
because the number of people in wheelchairs, specifically custom chairs, who aren't older is not a lot.
Yeah.
That's
So
right.
when
So
they
it's
see
different.
people who look like me, who are like smiling out, having a good time, and they're like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
so they get, just a little, used to it, which is
Yo.
good.
Terry tells the little kids, "Oh, I jumped out of an airplane." Like he comes up with these most elaborate stories as to why he's in a chair. I'm like, "Oh, sweet Jesus!" Like just tell
Yes.
them, educate
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
I love it.
What do I
I
say?
would-
This is what happens if you don't eat your vegetables.
Yeah.
No, remember we were going to Timmy's and a kid on a bike almost fell off the bike. I'm like, "Yo, watch out. That's how I ended up in a chair." And he's looking at me like, "Oh my God."
Gosh.
That's great.
And she's like, "Terry, stop it." I'm like, "No, we teach him. We teach him now."
That's so
Yeah.
funny. But yeah, I'm the one who gets mad at that stuff when
don't
people
get
are
mad.
looking at him. And I literally
He's-
am like, what are you
Yep.
looking at? Like he'll get out, we'll get out of the car at the Giant and he walks to get his wheelchair because he refuses to let me get it yet because, he's not to that point where I
Okay.
have to get it for him. So he will get it himself. And people, especially the older people, like they will mean mug the shit out of him. And I am me, like my little 5'3", 180 pounds of me is like, what the are you looking at?
I love it, dude.
I
love it.
And I will say this: when I get the hot-headed temper when there are people parking in the disabled parking spots, and they
Yeah.
clearly are like like.
Yep.
Maybe there's an invisible one, and
Yep.
I should not judge, but I did get into it once with a woman. She was lifting cases and cases of stuff, and I'm looking, and then I went and checked. Did she have the sticker in the front?
Yeah.
Like, and she's like, "It's at the front," and I'm like. So we had some choice words. Of course, he's just sitting back wanting popcorn to watch.
I'm loving it, dude. I'm like, "Let's go."
But
Because
yeah,
usually I'm the one doing something or so.
Yeah, no, I have no problem. The place that we were talking about, Nick had just gotten his new license plate for his motorcycle,
For my
which was a
trike.
trike,
Yep.
and it was a handicap plate.
You have a trike?
I had one, yeah.
We had
Oh,
one,
okay. All right.
but it was too much. It was too much for the hand-eye coordination and all that stuff at his feet, and it was just too much to keep going with it. So, unfortunately, we had to give it back. But
Pictures.
we pulled up into a handicap spot and there were these three old men outside, like just staring at us. And I was like, you could just take a picture. It'll last longer, you assholes. I was so mad. I was so angry.
He goes, well, just out of the blue, this is a handicap spot. I said, that's a handicap license plate. He goes, they don't make them for motorcycles. I said, go look, man. PennDOT.
Oh, and at me, my potty
You're
mouth
so
is going.
calm, man.
I was like, the fuck they don't.
Because
I was like, "Babe,
So,
Dude,
stop."
She's so funny.
so
Yo,
think about it.
No.
How much energy, Terry, does it take for you to get through any given day?
yeah,
Like,
okay.
just think about. So now I'm not gonna spend energy on people that I'm not spending it on. I
Well,
don't care.
I wait for those. I wait for them. Like,
no.
really?
No.
Nick and I
One
are the
second.
Zen meditation,
yes.
and you,
Yo,
Kit,
yeah.
have got
Listen,
the.
Yes.
we were going to a store or whatever, and there's a little ramp. And sometimes the ramps I can do it, but sometimes she's like, you want to push me? We want me to push you? And I'm like, yeah, that's okay with me. Nobody else, by the way, right? It's just her. She can push me anytime she wants. So when I'm going up the ramp, there's a lady there getting off her bike. And she goes, don't worry. You keep, what does she say? You do that for another few months. You'll get the strength. She doesn't know what she doesn't know what the fuck I have. She doesn't know
Oh
if I have
my
stage
God.
4 cancer. Dude, ask her what. Oh my God.
You went a little,
Dude, I didn't. No, I didn't.
My
I didn't.
head would have exploded off of its body.
She opened the door. She's like, "Get inside," and I'm like,
Well,
wait,
least-
wait. And she's like, "Get inside." I'm like, "Okay, go." Yeah.
at least we know, Katrina and Nick, not to allow Terry and I to hang out by ourselves
yeah,
No.
because we will get arrested.
I guess I for me, it's just like I got to pick my battles, and like Nick is saying, it's the energy.
I don't
You
care.
know,
I
yeah.
don't care enough. That's
Where I'm at. I'm like, yeah.
there is a
I can't
close there is close to a 100% chance I will never see that person again. So I'm not going to let them dictate any part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I get it.
I just don't.
I mean, I get it, but that's just not me.
That doesn't have to be.
Like,
Doesn't have to be you.
I can't help it. I just
know
get
what?
really
That's okay.
fucking mad. I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
I get so angry. And he's like, why are you even wasting
Just
your
don't waste
time?
your
Like,
energy.
don't
Yeah.
get so mad at them. I'm like, fuck them. And he just, and I do it. Like, I will curse so loud. And like,
This is great.
Can't monetize this episode.
and he just looks at me and
Great.
he's like, babe, I need you to calm down. I'm like,
Oh.
no, I'm not calming down.
Yeah.
And then I get in the car. He's like, just go sit in the car. I'm like, fine. And I'll sit in the car and like playing
Yeah,
my
I
game
hear
on
you.
my phone. And then he gets in. He's like, are you better now? I'm like, fucking people. I hate you.
So basically, what you're saying is
I shouldn't leave the house.
no. So what you're saying is when we all end up in New York together, you and
Oh.
Terry can't go off on your
No,
own
it
because
No,
you'll be.
It is the most perfect city for Terry and I
No,
to
but
be in
Terry will be.
together. Are you kidding?
Oh my
I'll get
God.
a phone call and Terry will be missing a wheel and you'll be locked up and you'll have beaten somebody with one of Terry's wheels somehow.
and Nick and our meditation session will get interrupted because they got into a brawl.
She'll be like,
Dude,
give me that wheel, Terry. I'm gonna beat him with it.
I think when I see you guys, I'm
What?
always gonna have a GoPro just in case anything happens. I'm gonna be ready for that viral video coming up.
Yes.
Yeah, and I
Yes.
can't, and I will not let Terry go out with my dad because my dad is this 79-year-old man who loves confrontation. He's loved it all his life and will go out looking for
You know,
it. And yeah. So
when he
the
says
two of
something,
them,
I'm like, yeah, that's exactly. I would have done the same thing. So I'm like, am I turning into your dad?
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
my dad is very like Kitsky. Don't get mad about that. I'm like, shut
Oh.
up. Where did
Yeah.
you learn this from? You know, because he used to be a hothead, but now he always looks at me and he's like, you know
Yeah.
what? I'll
Mhm.
just chill now. I'm 76.
If I had his
old.
meds, I'd be
I
that
don't
way
give a
too.
shit. Yeah, well,
Dude,
he's on good
makes
stuff.
sense
on
now.
a lot of
Yeah.
medication.
Because there's times I vented to you. You're like, nah, just ignore them.
That-
and I'm
and
like,
that's
what do you
truly
mean,
him.
bro?
That's
Yeah.
really him.
And
Like
that's-
that is
yeah.
Nick.
Yeah,
And so
Yeah,
we
that's not
are
Nick.
we are the
he's calm.
yang to your
collective guy.
yins.
Yes,
Terry would get
yes,
fired
yes.
up over emails or texts and stuff, and he'd be like, "I got to answer," and I'm like, "Well, read it to me," and he'll read it to me, and I'm like, "Well, there's no question, so no, you don't." And
What
I'm
do you
like,
have
"Really?
to answer?
Yeah. What do they want? They're just writing you a blog, whatever. You don't even have to say thank you." And so he's learned to just let these things go. It takes
Bro,
time.
I don't know what
but-
it is. It's closure. I need
Nah,
to
who
have
needs
closure.
closure
It's
from what?
weird. I don't know. I'm
Wow.
crazy.
I don't know.
Listen, no one can maintain a perfect score their entire life. And every single person leaves this earth with work to do. So you're
Mhm.
never going to have a complete record and you're never going to have a completed to-do list.
Yeah.
So don't worry about it.
Yeah. Got a question for Kit though. Sorry. What do you think about this label of caregiver?
I mean, I don't really look at being a caregiver for Nick.
Mhm.
I mean, like if it was something I was getting paid to do, for sure. But
Yeah.
I agreed a long time ago that, in sickness and in health, like I'm taking
Thank
care of
you.
your ass or you're taking care of mine.
Yeah. Thank you. Because
And that's
Just like
I take that seriously.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like that's for real.
just like you say, she has her decisions, right? She's made her decision.
Yeah. And
Sometimes I used to try to push her away, like, you don't need to, just go, please, just go, let me deal.
No doubt.
And she's like, I can make my own decisions. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. But
yeah, because I'm not a big fan of the term caregiver, because again, it was my choice to get into a relationship with this situation. So I would treat him any other partner in a relationship. So I don't think of it as caregiving. Because I think, like you said, in sickness and in health, we haven't said the vows, but that's how I interpret it. This is my partner for life.
Was that a foreshadowing?
No, it was not.
Damn.
No.
Well, it amazes me how many, and it saddens me really. I wouldn't say amazed. It saddens me really how many times Terry and I have heard that the person has lost their partner after the diagnosis. Like, that to me is like, really?
no, but you know what, man?
You were just looking for a reason at that point. You know
That
what I mean?
hurts my heart.
Yeah, me too.
No,
Yeah.
okay, here's the thing. I was married once and we're done, obviously divorced. And everyone's like, oh yeah, that's normal. I'm like, dude, I was a grumpy guy too. Because as I got diagnosed, within 2-3 years, she left. And but I was a grumpy guy. I changed. There's always two sides to every story. That's what I tell people.
Sure.
Yeah, she should have worked a little harder in it. Yeah, she had an issue for the last 12 years that I was with her, that I stood by her, because I could stand at the time. And and then once I got MS, 2-3 years, my grumpiness, and I don't think I was that grumpy. It was like me coming home and being really tired. And anyway, there's a lot of stories to that.
And we hear a lot of people that it happens to on both
Mhm.
sides.
Mhm.
We've heard people who left after they received their diagnosis because they didn't want to be the burden. And we've heard it the other way, that they
Mhm.
couldn't deal. So
I
it's
wouldn't
crazy.
allow your ass to leave. Like, even if
Yeah.
you tried, I'd be like, where the fuck are you going?
Dude, how come?
Thank you.
come-
Because when he would have his fits, like very early on in the relationship, he's like, we're done. I'm like, you're not getting rid of me that easy. Like, hello. No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, how come it took a year for you to introduce us to Kit?
That's
Sorry.
not true. She was on the after show a couple times way back when.
I wasn't on it. I literally came in and poked my face in and said hi. And
That's
then,
on it.
That's right. That's right. I remember that.
Really?
Yes.
That was a
Enough
long
of
time
that
ago.
shit.
John
I
was
do-
even on one too.
Yeah, I do remember that too. Yes. But I mean,
Both
like,
of you. Very
Did he
early
just-
on.
I don't know what the hell he's doing. He's looking at me all weird. I think like the last question I have, because I know we've been doing this for 2 hours.
Who cares?
Oh, really? Oh my gosh.
And this
The
is for
internet's a-
each. Like, I would love for everybody to answer separately.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
If they had a cure for MS, would you want Katrina? Would you want Terry to do it? Terry, would you want it? Nick, would you want it? And I'll obviously answer too.
All right, who's going first?
I'll go first. And I don't know Terry without MS. So I don't know what kind of person who he would be. So I guess on one hand, yes, love for him to be able to walk and drive the car and get those freedoms back. But on the other hand, would we be compatible? That's a tough question. And I don't know.
Fair enough.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna sound so silly saying this stuff, but I would like the cure because I don't want to end up pooing myself in the future. Okay.
Right.
So but at the same time, I think this is how bad I am. Okay. I think if I had the cure, I think I wouldn't tell people I'm better. If no one knew that there was a cure, I think I would be an advocate for a lot of people out there, but I don't know.
It's a very,
because it's who I am. Yeah.
it's a tough question. Yeah.
And I love who I am now in a chair, and I've developed into who I am, and I really do love who I am. But I want the cure. Yeah, do I really want to go for runs? I'm kind of
Right.
glad I'm in a wheelchair.
Right.
I'm glad I don't have to
Because if I'm better, then you can shovel the snow now.
I'd make your ass work so much harder.
Dude, I love this.
I would want supper on the table at 5 o'clock every day.
I made my kitchen accessible. She's like, since it's accessible, this is what you're cooking for dinner. I'm
Yep.
like, oh,
You gotta do what you can.
What about you, babe?
About me? I don't know. You spend so much time, or I spent so much time sitting quietly alone in hospital rooms, figuring out who I am with this diagnosis, that you have to mourn the loss of who you were. You have to completely rewrite everything you thought you knew about what your life was going to be. You have to realize that you still have a life, even though your idea of it is gone. That having spent so much time trying to reinvent myself, and really not all that successfully, like there's still big chunks of me that are still holding on to who I was still. Again, I like Terry, sure, for all the uncomfortable and quote unquote bad things coming down the line, sure. Would I want a cure? Would I want a cure? Yeah, because I don't want those things. But has the diagnosis and the re-identifying of self been a positive thing? I think so, in a long number of ways. I mean, for sure, I don't look at our relationship like I did before, and I don't look at life the way I did before. I think I'm a little calmer than I was, and a smidge less interested in the outcome of things from time to time and what people think and my position. And so would I want to go, how I wouldn't even know how to be, because I would want to revert back to the guy I was before the diagnosis, which was not a nice guy all the time. So I don't know if I would want to go back to being that nice guy or that mean guy. I mean, sure, I would take it. Yes, that's the point. Everybody wants the cure. Nobody wants the disease. But how would I wouldn't even know. And it's something I don't even think about, because as of yet, I don't have to think about it. Because as it stands now, no matter what we do, we're going to get to some degree of greater disability than we do now. Now, the thing that hit me the most is when I heard one of the doctors I follow on YouTube, he highlighted the fact that lesions are actually brain damage, and that had never correlated before. So would I want the cure to stop suffering brain damage? Yes, that's the reason why I would take it, because I don't want any more brain damage from this diagnosis. So that's why I would take it. Shrinkage and then damage too. It's the lesions are damaged. So yeah, I would take it, but I would do a very good job of making sure that I didn't go back to who I was before it, because that wouldn't be right either. It's not a reset to your life. Shit, I'd probably have more depression after getting cured, because then I had to go through and figure out who I am than I do now. And I got a lot now, as you know. So I would take it though. Sure. Yep. What about you? No,
Absolutely not.
Really?
Yep. Nope. I mean, even all the shit that we have been through, literally from the beginning to be, Evelyn was 18 days old. We were homeless, to everything with Liv to
today,
all the way up to today. Like, do I wish that there was a better medication out there? For sure. But I don't wish.
Ocrevus isn't too bad so far.
I don't wish that there was. I don't ever hope that there's a cure for it. And, that may be,
that is for sure a hot take.
An unhappy opinion. But I don't, because, I am selfish and I like the person you have become.
Oh.
I like the person, granted, we still have our ups and downs, and, financially totally crushed us. But, it's also taught me a lot about myself too. Like, it taught me a lot about how to, juggle the the house and the responsibilities and everything, and still have like a new relationship developing with you, because it's kind of what it was like after you got diagnosed, like you said, finding the new you, and finding out who you were or who you are now. I had to do the same thing with you.
True.
I had to learn that. I had to learn the new Nick and habits and stuff like that. So I think if I could go back 10 years, I don't think I would.
Not to say that she has it worse, but it must be tough for someone to be with someone when they don't have MS, and then to see them go through MS. I'm not saying that you had it easier, rather than meeting someone who's already had MS. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get.
Because you're like, oh yeah.
I mean, it's hard, and it's funny that you say that, because when I tell people how I lost my mom, okay, they're like, oh, that must have been, it must have been really hard because you didn't get to say goodbye and everything. And yeah, I mean, there were some things that I wish I could have said to her beforehand, but and then people were like, at least I still have my dad, even though he has cancer, I can still say all the things that I want to say. And I'm like, you can't even compare the two, because you're still losing someone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
like Katrina and I, yes, we have a very different dynamic with our partner. Of course we do. But, I don't, and Terry, believe me, I totally appreciate, what you were trying to say there. It's hard all around, whether it's something brand new or whether it's something that you've known. You know what I mean? Like, it sucks, but you fell in love with that person. I'm still in love with this person. That's all that fucking matters.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kit, I'm so glad I met you.
You too.
You're awesome.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait for New York.
I curse a lot. I'm really
Yeah, we're
sorry.
gonna
I
have
do
fun.
curse a whole lot. I'm
So
sorry.
do I.
Oh,
I control,
Yeah.
I think
I
Nick's
can't.
like, control yourself, Terry.
I have cut a lot of that language out.
And
That's okay. I don't expect everyone to do it.
There's a few times, man, when I said a couple words and I looked at you and said, yeah, cut that out. That's a little too much for me too. I think I talked about something never mind.
So-
Splashing up and touching my,
Oh God.
anyway.
So that's season 2, Terry.
Well, congratulations to you both for embarking on this journey and doing it, like having the courage to just do it, being vulnerable and putting yourself out there. And I think that I've listened to every episode, and I commend you for the vulnerability and even, some of the mental health issues. It's not spoken enough for men.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so congratulations to you both.
Thank you.
And to all your guests for having the ass to do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Man, just the people that we've been in contact over this last year.
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Say that. I'm impressed.
Thanks very largely in part to Terry.
Oh, stop it, man.
No.
Come on.
Well, listen, I'm not giving you credit where it's not due. You
Yeah.
reach out to them and you schedule the guests. Like, it's not me that brings these people on. It's for sure you.
Dude, I would not have started a podcast. And then you came to me with that intro once. And I'm like, Katrina, I'm doing this with this guy. And I was so excited. And I've always knew I needed to do this, but I just didn't know how to start, motivate. I'm usually the guy that starts a project and I work at it. And then I burn myself out because nobody else works at it. So this is perfect, bro.
I know. I love it. And big things coming season 3. I think one of the biggest things is we're gonna be video. We're gonna be on YouTube, and then we're gonna take the audio and put it out from there. And
I just can't wait for you two to meet.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cry. So I am a crier.
Oh, so am I. Oh yeah.
It's awful. Like, I was sitting and watch a stupid commercial and I start crying and I'm like, are you fucking serious? What am I crying for?
so
I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna be hugging Katrina like, this is the sweetest.
Yep.
So for our listeners, we'll let them know that season 3 is going to start. We're going to take a break, probably a month or two, maybe longer, but we're going to get a lot of things in order. We're going to really ramp up some show things. But the first episode of season 3 is going to be me and Terry meeting with Dr. Wagner in New York. We're gonna vlog the whole thing. Kit has agreed to be an Instagram wife for the weekend. She's gonna take all the
I'm
pictures
absolutely awful at that.
and
but
videos.
Oh,
Don't worry.
I'm
Don't
a
worry.
huge fan of Instagramming and
you
doing.
should do that because
I've got
I'm
a-
really bad at that.
Oh, I've already got templates created to promote
Oh,
season 1 and 2.
You
and-
should totally see.
So what's
She should absolutely do that.
Dude, I need her to be the mouth.
That I can do.
So when we're having issues, I'll just look at her and
That I can do.
so we're gonna start there. We're changing the show logo. We're gonna update the logo. We're gonna update the intro. There's a whole lot is coming.
awesome. I can't wait,
So
man.
we're gonna take at least a couple weeks off, probably the whole month of December. But that's not to say that Terry and I won't be popping up from time to time live on Instagram or
Mhm.
wherever we end up because we can't stay away from
Sounds good. Yeah,
our
man.
adoring fans.
Or I get grumpy, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Oh boy, I'm gonna be hearing a lot of this now, aren't I? Yeah.
well, thank you both.
No, Nick will go over everything with me in the car and be like, really, baby? I didn't know that you felt that way.
That's not true. I knew you felt a lot about it. You just don't share very often.
No, I really don't. I'm not a sharer.
But I know. So,
Yeah.
my Canadian besties, I love
Yeah,
you both
man.
very
Awesome.
dearly.
Yeah.
This has been great.
Great.
Thank you both.
I'll talk to you soon, man.
Talk soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Bye.
So check us out at 40belowzero.com. That's 4T-below-zero.com. Or feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. Our email address is info@40belowzero.com. Our personal Instagram account are, for Nix, it's Nix_V713. Or for Terry, it's what's_MS. Awesome. Looking forward to hearing from you guys. We'll talk soon.